Got to hit record. You need sound check or are we good?
Yeah, I checked and everything looks good.
Okay.
Let me start the screen. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, Shirley. Come on through. You're going to share your table with two of our guests.
Welcome to our table.
All right.
Welcome to table your presentations. at this table.
So everybody, welcome back. Today is the final day of presentations from Ohio-based publishers and experts. And it's the penultimate day of our program. And we've covered a lot of ground to this point. Lots of stories of strength and doubt, and lots of stories of people who just believe until there's no turning back. Some great stories, success stories, and some hard stories too. But we're going to end on a high note. Monica Nieporte, a longtime, very good friend of the School of Journalism here at Ohio University. It might have something to do with the fact that she has a degree from us. And a long and very, very illustrious career as a working journalist, an editor, a publisher, and now a really great executive director of our Ohio News Media Association. We are really blessed to have Monica at the helm of that really important press association. And we have two of the consistent stars of the Ohio News Media Association. You've spent time with some of the others. You spent time in Yellow Springs, and you've met Deb from Logan. And so but for this panel, this one's focused on special sections. Basically, what else can we do besides the daily or the weekly product? Not just to generate revenue, although these do generate revenue, but to serve the community in different ways. One of the things about community journalism is it can get kind of stale and predictable. It's nice to shake things up a little bit and surprise people and remind them that, you know, if you weren't there, there are certain stories that wouldn't be told. So we're really blessed to have Mary Huber from the Archbold Buckeye, way up in the northwest corner of Ohio. And John Karlovic from the other side of the northern part of the state, from Geauga County, it's the outside of Cleveland on the east side, into the rural areas between Cleveland and Erie, Pennsylvania, and New York State, etc. These are newspapers that have consistently won statewide awards year after year after year. Sometimes I'm asked to help judge the Hooper contest, and it's always a delight to judge these two newspapers because they are always doing some amazing things. So I'm going to turn it over to Monica to introduce the guests a little bit more, and I'll project the slides, and then I'm just going to drive the slideshow.
So Mary and John are both, in addition to their duties in their markets, they are also both board members of mine at the Ohio News Media Association. So they have, in the last few years, taken a bigger role with the state association. And as part of that, we have an annual contest, which is what Bill's referring to, for our non-daily newspapers. The reason we don't do daily newspapers is because the Associated Press has their own contest. And so we don't want to step on their toes. So we have a contest for the non-dailies, which could be a weekly, it could be a 3-time-a-week paper, it just can't be a daily. So one of the things that they help with every year is that awards program. And this year we had our first in-person event since the COVID pandemic. And we had students from, I think, 16 different Ohio colleges and universities who are all studying journalism came and participated that day. We had collegiate awards, and then we also did some collegiate networking with them. So it's a good opportunity for us to get out in front of different groups, because it also, you know, I'm not working in the field anymore producing these kind of things. It's kind of sad. I kind of miss it, but it gives them ideas too. So anything that they're sharing with you, please feel free to share back some ideas so they get to take home an idea also. So one of the things that I used to do in Bill's rundown of all the different hats that I've worn, I used to be the regional vice president for a company that owned 10 newspapers in Southern Ohio. And then lo and behold, they bought a paper in Northwest Ohio near Mary's neck of the woods and one in Michigan. And so I ended up being in charge of 12 different papers. And that was a lot to keep track of what was going on in each place. So one of the things that I made sure I did with each of my papers is around October each year, we got together and we talked about the upcoming year. Everybody does that for budget, but we talked about it in terms of special opportunities. What is going to be happening in your community, in your market, this next upcoming year that is an opportunity that we don't want to miss and we should start planning for? Because it's really hard. And Mary and John can probably attest to this. When somebody comes to you and says, well, next week, you know, blah, blah, you don't have time to put something together in a week. And so you have to, especially for something bigger, that you want to get advertising support for, that you want to get maybe even consumer support for. Maybe this is something you're going to ask people to purchase. You need a lot longer lead time than just a couple of weeks. And so we had that meeting every October in each market. And I felt that that was one of the most beneficial things that we did, because it got everybody thinking. It got people digging out calendars from the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitors Bureau, and, you know, checking in with people down at the Historical Society or the local college to say, what do you have coming up that we may not know about? So that was something that I felt that we did that was worthwhile. And we always usually identified something that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And then the other key piece to this is, then you have to also get rid of something that you've been hanging on to, that maybe it's run its course. Maybe it's not as successful as what it was before. Maybe you don't have as much reader or advertiser interest in it, and you have been doing it and you keep doing it because, well, we've always done it, or, you know, well, we've done this the past 5 years, and you're limping along with it. Replace it with something fresh. That is what I would tell you. Don't try to cram the new idea as, okay, here's yet another thing. Get rid of whatever the weakest thing is that's on your list. Get rid of it and replace it with something new. So I've always kind of looked at special sections in this way. There's different types of special sections. There's one that's tied to a repeat event, like I just mentioned, something that's an every year thing. There's a newspaper created event, which we did have when I was the regional publisher down here. We had an event that we did called Backyard Barbecue, and we brought in bands, we had food vendors, we had, you know, a car show and some different things that went along with that. Well, we created the event. We got some buy-in from the Chamber of Commerce and some other civic organizations to back it, and it became a big event. And then we had a special section that was related to that. So, so there's the newspaper created event that without you coming up with it, it wouldn't exist. And then there's a unique opportunity that circumstances present. The best example I can give you of this, and I don't know if Deb Tobin, when you met with her, if she bragged about this or not. This is when she worked for the other company before she started her paper. But one of the things that Deb helped me with about 6 years ago, we did a bicentennial book for the city of Logan, because when we had that October meeting, somebody in that meeting said, well, Logan's bicentennial's next year. Could we do something for that? heck yeah, we could do something for that, because we had almost 200 years worth of newspapers on microfilm spanning that whole time frame. We had the Historical Society around the corner willing to let us use any photos we wanted. That turned out to be a huge undertaking that I think Deb and the other writers kind of cussed me under their breaths when they saw me in the hallways for a while, because it was a lot of work, but it brought in over $200,000. Wow. Because we produced books that we sold for $20 a piece, and they hit the market right at Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and everybody in town had to have one. It's something we could never do again. And it was an opportunity that was a once in a 200-year opportunity. And so we tried to maximize it. And the key is, you know, you're not going to always have things like that, but when you do, try to make the most of it, because it was well worth the investment of time and resources that we put into it. So the next example of repeat special section opportunities. So these can be also in paper. They don't have to be a standalone section that gets inserted into your paper. These could be special pages. Some people do salute to graduates every May. Some people do a couple of pages of sports previews. If they don't have a lot of teams and they don't have enough content to do a standalone section, it can be pages in the paper itself. One of the other things that we did, in one of my other markets in Circleville, we partnered with their Chamber of Commerce. Their thing was, downtown is dead in the summertime. What can we do to get people out? And so we started a Christmas in July pages that started out as 2 pages of the paper where the downtown businesses advertised their specials. You know, we designated 2 middle weeks of July as being Christmas in July. It turned into an annual sidewalk sale event that the chamber then really got behind and promoted. But it was something that it started as just 2 little pages in the paper, and a way for people to, you know, on a random Wednesday in July, get them to come and shop in their store. Other examples of things that you can do every year, if you have a local festival, a county fair, a voter's guide, you know, things like that are typical special sections that a lot of papers, at least here in Ohio, run. An example of, more examples of newspaper created events. You can do, a lot of the Convention and Visitors Bureau produce their own guides. That doesn't mean you can't also produce a guide and put it in your newspaper. Sometimes they don't really have a guide, and they might partner with you to produce it for them. And then they help you on the distribution angle. And they, you know, that gives more value to your advertisers if you can say, not only is this in the newspaper, but this is a piece that the Convention and Visitors Bureau is also putting out, and it's in local businesses or in racks in the hotels. A business directory is another kind of easy one that you can do, partnering with your local business leaders, your Chamber of Commerce or somebody like that. We've done pet contests. People like those kind of things. They want to see Fluffy's picture in the newspaper, and they will pay a little bit of money to put it in there, especially if you get a business to put up a nice prize for the winner. So, you know, you might get a local pet store to put some food and some dog accessories together for, you know, the winner, and then people get their friends to all vote. And it's a benefit to the advertisers, because the more people who are going to vote, then the more people that see their ad. Baby contests, same way, same theory. Those tend to be pretty popular. Football and basketball contests are real popular, at least in Ohio. I don't know about other states, but where you have readers guess who is going to win each week, on the football matchups for high school. And then usually there's a prize given at the end for whoever guessed the most right. So those are ones that you can create yourself and generate some advertising dollars and some reader interest in what's happening. Lastly, the unique opportunities. Like I mentioned before, local sports team goes to a championship. That's not going to happen all the time. And when it does, it's a big deal. And there's a lot of reader interest in that. There's a lot of advertiser interest in that. One thing we did here in Athens Athens High School's quarterback is now Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. And when he played high school ball, they went to the state championship, and we completely remade the whole front page of the paper that day, changed the header on it and everything to be Athens Bulldog theme. And it became a souvenir piece that everybody wanted to kind of commemorate their trip to the state championship.
Joe Burrow played for Louisiana State University, where they won the national championship, and this town became LSU fans.
Yeah.
Right. Ohio State, who?
Right. Right. So the the bicentennial, work with your historical society, your local college, some other people in the community who might be able to tell you about some milestones that are coming up that might not be on your radar. And they might not have anything big planned for it. And so it could become an opportunity for you. The example I just gave of Joe Burrow, I mean, when he was the #1 draft pick in the NFL, this was after I had already left the Athens paper, but I know that they did have a special section for the NFL draft. They did a lot of coverage featuring him. Supposedly going to be going as the #1 pick, and there was lots of advertising and reader interest in that. Ohio University, being in this market, presents a lot of opportunities for the local papers, because Ohio University has been here, a few years longer than the paper, but not very many more, maybe 20 years longer than the paper. And so when the university marks a historic occasion, the newspaper has tons of things in its archives that they can dig out, old photos, old articles that they can be used to highlight that milestone anniversary. Don't overlook the library, the historical society, people like that as partners if you don't have those things, because our experience is they're usually more than willing to let you borrow, and as long as you're giving back and you give them credit that this is from the whatever historical society, they're usually very excited about the fact that somebody wants to use all of their stuff in some special piece. So we've never really had anybody turn us down when we've asked.
Historical societies are good friends to local newspapers. Now, they can be demanding and needy, and so sometimes we call them hysterical societies, but they just because they're hoarders. They're always looking for stuff, and you can't find any information about this, and it's like, well, talk to Mabel, and Mabel's got it, or Mabel knows somebody who's got it.
Right. And one of the things that we learned too is they can be your best friends, and they can also be kind of critical. So when we were doing the bicentennial book in Logan, we involved them from the beginning, and that we kind of knew things that they would question or say, well, I'm not sure you have that exactly right. So we just fixed it before putting something out without them seeing it. It probably would have gone okay, but we made sure it was going to go well because we involved them from the beginning. So we didn't give them any control over what was in it, but we said, we want you to look at this before we print it. And if there is something that we got wrong, or if there's something that we're missing that you feel we should have in there, let us know. So, and I don't think there was anything they found that was wrong, but there was something that they thought was missing. And so we moved things around and added it in to kind of make them happy. So, but Mary and John have brought actual pieces with them today to show you. And I'm going to turn it over to them to talk about what goes into putting one of these things together and what are the most successful ones that you guys do.
I'll start off. Good morning, everyone. My name's John Karlovic, and as Bill and Monica said, I am one of the owners, my family, of the Geauga County Maple Leaf, which is a community newspaper weekly paid circulation in Geauga County, Ohio, which is Cleveland is in Cuyahoga County, Geauga County is immediately to the east. In addition to that, we have a series of total market coverage newspapers, which are free newspapers, that saturate an area. We usually do like a school district, all the communities, within that school district. Some of them overlap with our regular weekly paid circulation, newspaper. My background is I am a reformed lawyer. I am not a journalist by trade. My family has been in the newspaper business for around 125 years. We started off, we own a daily law journal in Cuyahoga County, which is one of the places where, municipalities, place legal notices. That's how we started. In 2000, we bought this Maple Leaf out of bankruptcy. And I have then taken over the community newspaper, businesses. And today we own 5 of them and are ready to, we'll be buying another one in the fall. We do the basic news as Monica was saying. We cover the high school sports, we cover the local governments. One of the big things that we do as a community newspaper is we don't compete with the 6 o'clock news. We don't compete with the national news. So if there's some big event that happens in Cleveland, Ohio, we don't cover it. We stick to what's within the confines of our county. Okay, because again, the thinner you spread yourself, the less interest you're going to get from your people. I've seen papers in our area that try to expand their coverage and going into different areas with news. Well, you're going to lose the people who have been your subscribers when you start filling your paper with news from communities that they can't relate to in other counties. So it's a very big advice that I have. When we got the paper, we didn't have any special sections. And it's literally like Monica says, we sat down and we started looking at what our county had. We're a rural county that's located next to a very large county. We have an exceptionally high percentage of Amish. If you're any familiar with the Amish.
Was down from the budget.
Okay.
They had a whole afternoon.
Not what the budget has, okay, but we have one of the largest settlements where we are, but not as big as where the budget is. We also have a huge maple syruping industry where we are in our county and in sort of Northeast Ohio. Like many places, in Ohio, we have rabid high school sports people. We've been blessed with, numerous state championships, in our area. We have a county fair. So we started looking at, all the different things that we could do. We're also in the area where we are, Northeast Ohio, it's a very large area for healthcare. We have the Cleveland Clinic, we have university hospitals. They all have big operations in the areas where, where we are. We have big car dealerships that have in mainly Cuyahoga, but then they have, dealerships, that have expanded. So one of the things that we did is we sat down, more than a decade ago and came up with a list of special sections that we wanted to do, because one of the things that, I saw was that, as the newspaper has its bread and butter advertisers, okay, but there are a lot of businesses out there that are not going to, they're not looking to use your newspaper as a platform to reach their customers. They may be a manufacturer of widgets, or, they may provide services to a completely different sort of demographic than who's reading our newspaper. And so, we saw, special sections as an opportunity to attract those advertising dollars to a special section that we would distribute through our newspapers. Okay. It has been hugely successful for us. We have in all of this, the information that I'm going to talk about here, we have on our website, which is www.geauga, GEAUGA, mapleleaf.com. And there's a tab that you'll see there's a media kit, in under the more tab, and under the e-editions, you'll see all the special sections and everything else.
I'll share the link. I've got it projecting here.
Oh, great. Okay.
I'll share the link with everybody. So
And so when we decide to do a special section and on there right now, and we have different kinds of sections. We print a tabloid newspaper. Okay, so our newspaper looks like this. We also print a series of special sections that are more like a program or a booklet. And so, and I'll get into those. So the general sections that we have like this, sort of a tabloid, and all these are in the media kit, and I'll talk about our spring home, health and wellness, summer camps, for all the kids. As I mentioned, the maple industry, there's a very large maple festival that they hold every year in the county. Golden Geauga. Geauga County has as a percentage, even though there's about 100,000 people, but as a percentage, we have one of the highest percentage of seniors in Ohio. So we have a special section, Golden Geauga. We have Ohio's oldest county fair in Geauga County. And then we have Fall Home and we have Holiday Home. Okay, so when any of these special sections and the ones I'm going to talk about, we sit down and we go over, okay, who do we want to attract as advertisers? Okay, if you're dealing with health and wellness, you don't necessarily, you may not be attracting, a bar or something, but you're going to be attracting hospitals. You'll be attracting nursing homes, healthcare facilities, all those types of businesses. So we sort of sit there, we put a list together and that we target. And one of the most important things I can tell you to do is to prepare ahead of time. Come up with a schedule. What's the ad deadline? What's the content deadline? Involve the editorial staff. So we have a meeting where we have the advertising staff, the editorial staff, and we talk about what types of articles do we want? Are there any special stories that we want to include in this feature? And we go through all that and we set the deadlines. We set who's going to be responsible for them, what the deadline is going to be. When do we go to print? When do we then, go to distribute? How do we do all that? And then we meet periodically, to go over those sheets and see where we are. And we may have 4, 5, 6 special sections overlapping with deadlines at the exact same time. But if you plan and you prep, okay, you're able to manage that. You can't put something together in a week. Okay, it takes months to put it together. But if you do that and you're disciplined, you'll find out that at the end, when it comes to the production stage, it's a lot easier if an advertiser pulls out, or if, you know, you need to take, you know, a pivot, add something, take something out, you know, of the paper. One of the things that we also do with that in our special sections, we want to reward people who decide that they're going to advertise in multiple sections. Okay, so you know, you may get a car dealership who says, I'd like to be in, you know, the spring home, I'd like to be in the county fair special section, I'd like to be in your holiday, you know, special section. Okay, those people should be rewarded. So what we do is we set a rate. Everybody always wants to know, hey, do I get a discount, you know, for advertising frequency and what have you? And I'll tell you one of the lessons we learned. Initially, when we set this up for the special sections, we said, okay, if you advertise in 3 or more special sections, your rate is 20%, you know, discount. People signed up. They did the first one, maybe they did the second one. Then they opted not to do the third one. Okay, but yet, you know, so, you know, and, you know, you're not going to cause a huge, you know, problem because this is an advertiser, this is a future advertiser, but yet you gave them a discount of 20% on the very first ad, and that's all they ran, you know, and so what we do is, the way it's structured now is you earn your discount as you advance.
That's great.
So, yeah, so your first, you know, ad is this, and then each successive ad that you get a discount. Okay, that has been hugely successful. We don't have that problem anymore. Okay, we may get people who don't do the third ad, but that's okay because they've done the second, you know, the second ad. And all of this is on the media kit, you know, on the website. We then have a separate schedule for our special our like what I basically call our high school or, you know, things. We publish 3 different high school type special sections. One is football. As again, we are Ohio is a huge high school football and American football, you know, state. We also publish a basketball preview, and then we publish a graduation preview, okay, or graduation special section. On all these special sections, we also offer sponsorships to be on the cover. Okay, so if an ad in the special section, let's say is a full page ad is $600, we will sell it for maybe for $800 to be a cover sponsor. And for that, you get a full page ad in the paper, you know, but we've captured an additional $200 by throwing, you know, their logo,
On the cover.
whatever, on the cover, you know, so, and in certain situations, we may have 2 people that want to be a cover sponsor, in which case, you know, they're suddenly, without really doing anything, you've earned $400 more, and then they're getting the full page anyway that they would have paid $600 for. So, you know, that's something that, you know, I would look at. What other incentives, you know, can you offer these people, you know, to come in and participate? One of the things that, though, when you with I'm sure you may with newspapers, at least with our newspapers, you know, there's 3 big costs you have. You have obviously your personnel, but you have your mailing and your printing. Okay, and those are pretty consistent. You know what it costs to print a 4-page paper, an 8-page paper, a 12-page paper. You know what it costs for each flat of color, you know, that you may have, you know, printed. You know what it costs to mail, you know, your paper, you know, because the rates are there. So you kind of factor all those things in to when you're setting up these rates, you know, for what type of margin are you looking, you know, to make on the special section. one of the things I think you have to be careful about is, you know, we do not charge advertisers for for our graphic design. If you submit a camera ready ad, you're paying the same rate as the advertiser who has us make an ad. Okay, what's that?
You're paying for
Yeah, you're paying for the space. One of the things I would caution, you know, and this is kind of, this maybe is an aside, we allow one sort of proof change. You know, once they've given you the content, once they've given you the concept that they'd like to see, and you create the ad and you submit it to them, we allow one change. Now, if somebody says, oh, wait, I made a mistake, that the time was 9 a.m., it wasn't 10, you know, or this is changing, that's one thing. You'd be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't, how many people want to change their ad and they want to keep on changing it. Okay.
We even have that at the association.
Yeah.
And most of our ads are very tech
You know,
heavy, but-
and you know, now we sit there and say, okay, well, you're going to pay $40, you know, an hour for those changes and what have you. And it sounds great. It's hard to collect that,
Yeah.
you know, from people ahead of time. So, but when you put these special sections, be mindful, you know, of that, because that's another cost that's going in to, you know, eating away your margin. And for us, these special sections are the biggest margin we have. Okay. You know, the newspaper, you know, business is it's competitive and it's tough. It's the special sections that really provide us, you know, with the sort of the icing, you know, on the cake. A couple of years ago, we bought some other publications from another newspaper that were struggling, and and again, it's on the copies of it. You'll see all the past years. It is called Holidays in Geauga. Okay, you can see it's on glossy paper. All right, so right off the bat, your cost is going to be twice as much.
Yep.
Okay, for glossy paper. So you got to keep that in mind. All right. One of the beauties about this publication is we talked about getting advertisers to advertise with you, okay, who wouldn't be in the paper. Here, we get everybody, okay, because one thing it does is it allows the business or the advertiser, and you'll see in here, they highlight their employees. They basically create a Christmas card or a holiday card, okay, where they, you know, wishing everybody a happy holiday season. You know, may we, you know, here's a heating and air conditioning company. May we, you know, may your heart and home be filled with the spirit of Christmas. You know, lots of things. This is by far, this one publication generates the most profit of anything we do. Okay, but we work on this from January until it comes out in December. Okay, we offer discounts for early birds, you know, people who want to come in by March, you know, by March 30th. And again, all this is in the media kit, which you'll find on the website. Okay, in terms of the discounts and everything, the special sections are under the e-edition section. Yep.
If I may ask a question, on that application, do you have a dedicated team that focuses on this project, or is it a team?
So the way our paper has is we have full-time employees who are sales reps. We also have people on the outside who they really only work for us, but they don't want to sell for the newspaper or anything else. And so they're employed just to sell this. Okay. You know, and that works out, you know, well, you know, for us, because they're able to dedicate the time, because you can imagine, you know, when we talked about the mailing, the printing, and the people as sort of being your biggest costs, you know, we are a lean, mean company. Okay, I mean, we used to print our paper. Now, you know, we just publish. Okay, because, you know, with the printing press, unless that press is running, you know, nonstop, you have people sitting around doing nothing. Okay, so we've outsourced that to a third party, or, you know, publications to a third party printer. Some of these things we still print in-house, you know, on, you know, sort of the, you know, the fancy, you know, high-tech, you know, copiers and such that staple, sort, you know, do everything, you know, you need. But yeah, that's how we do it. And we literally every month we track what's going on. And this thing, that what we found is over the years, this has sold itself. We probably every year add 15 to 20 people who said, I saw this, you know, magazine. How do I get in it? How can I be in it next year? Okay. And again, that's been a terrific one.
Sorry, can I just
Sure.
follow up on, so with the team that freelancers, salespeople, how does that work? Because this is a year-long project. Because those would be people I'm assuming who would earn commission.
Yes.
So do you only pay them commission in December? How does it work?
Yeah, we pay them the commission in December, and they're fine with that. You know, we will do it with, you know, with how they want it done. But it's another kind of as a tangent as an aside. One of the things that, you know, you guys, I'm sure all know this, you have, is you sell an ad. Okay, great. You send out the invoice, you know, you're waiting to get paid. And like any other business, people don't pay, you know. If you've paid a commission sort of before the customer has paid, okay, and we, you know, we do, it's not it's sort of a case-by-case basis. Some we know are good. Sometimes the hospitals are terrible payers, okay, but we know they'll pay. You know, same with some of the car dealerships and things like that. But you know, we generally wait until we get paid. And a lot of them, like I talked about the early bird in this particular one, those people pay. Okay, an early bird, you know, fee. We'll pay commission on that to the people, but otherwise we'll wait until, you know, the actual publication comes out and, you know, and we get paid. And it hasn't been a problem, you know, for us on that. One of the ones that Monica talked about too was to take advantage of an opportunity, you know, for like a high school sporting team. Okay, we happen to have a very good high school football team in Geauga County called the Chardon Hilltoppers. Okay, they've won several, you know, recently several state titles. All right. Well, how do we put this together then?
None of your business, Ken.
Well, you think about it, all year long or all season long, our sports people have been writing, covering that team. Okay, they get to the state, you know, tournament, and we have people covering the team. But what do we also have? The state of Ohio, through the Ohio State High School Athletic Association, they start covering the teams that are there. They have photographs. They have stats on both teams, you know, all the upcoming ones. Okay. Well, we use all that information in the paper. They end up, let's say they end up winning, and we then put the book together. Okay. And again, you talk about selling. This is mainly people who've never advertised in the newspaper. But there is a huge sense of pride in the community for winning the state, and everybody wants to be part of it. Everybody wants to be seen as supporting, you know, the kids in the high school and and we make sure we put the cheerleaders in there. We make sure, you know, we put the coaches in there, the trainers, you know, in there, all the people that are involved, the band. that are involved, and they all want to be part of it. Okay. This one publication, just for this one school, our profit on this was over $15,000, which for a paper like ours was significant. Okay. But it also, though, introduced you to other advertisers that you then follow up with on things like this magazine or other magazines. Because again, you realize, again, who's a newspaper advertiser and who isn't, but who you may get into another section like that. And then what we do is we print extra copies and, we sell them, because you'll get, a grandparent or a parent will come in and buy 20 copies of something to send to every relative in the United States, or, they'll buy, every, copy to put in their, child's, time capsule or something like that. And so it's a great additional, source of revenue, that you have, and we make it nice. We make it, nice. So it's on, sort of on the glossy paper.
Hey, John, I've
Yeah.
always had a question about that. When you sell extra copies like that, do you have to charge tax?
Yeah.
You do?
Mhm.
Okay.
And,
Um,
sorry. I see you've got a great thing going with advertisers. But I'm curious about database for the readers. Do you, with all these great products, are you able to get database on your readers? Or you don't really care about
You mean
that?
when you say the database on the readers, like Google Analytics or?
No, yeah, just information on who they are, how to reach
Who's
them.
picking that
Yeah,
up?
the demographics of who's reading you and.
Well, on the special sections, not per se, but on our website, we have Google Analytics. Okay, so we're able to go on the website and get, users, page views, duration, sessions, age, gender, a whole bunch of, where they are. But we don't necessarily know if somebody on a website goes in and, how many people are looking at this. Okay, but we know how many people, go to our website. We know how many top stories we have. The other thing that we do is we are very involved with using, tying our website in and what we do with social media. Okay, and one of the things too that we use that helps sell some of these special sections, we have again, it's all relative, but we have around 20,000 Facebook followers. Okay, we have another, about 6,000 Twitter followers. And so and if you think about it, it doesn't cost you anything to put an ad up on, to share somebody's ad, post it on Facebook or to post it on Twitter. Okay, I mean, just basically the time to turn it in, convert it to a PDF to a JPEG and then upload it, and people love that. The advertisers love that because they think they're getting, and it's sort of additional reach, for their people. We'll share this on, all of our publications. So any of you guys use the program Issue? Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, that's what all these are.
Okay.
So, they're all on there. So we will share that, on our social media platforms, and that's a people, again, they like it because it's a whole other audience. You got your internet audience, you have your Facebook audience, you have obviously your print audience, who looks at it. And that's, in terms of trying to compete, with what's all the different, whether it's, the Googles and the Facebook ads and all the other platforms that these businesses have, we try to bring more to the table, YouTube videos, things like that. People can find this. But one of the things that this has led us to, which we are in this year we are launching is again, we have veterans are very, important, people in the United States, and absolutely in the county in which we are, which we operate. Well, we're this year, we're going to create a magazine like this as a salute to the county veterans. And we have in the paper and on social media, we've shared a ad. Okay, and again, I'd be happy to send any of this, to anybody. Asking people family members, parents or grandparents, or, people who have since passed, to submit a photo and just name which branch of the service, what, is it in honor of, in memory of, what it is, for free. Okay, it'll be in the publication. But then we've gone out to the same types of advertisers as here to go to be it, because who isn't going to sit there and say, I like to be known as supporting our servicemen and women.
Right.
Everybody wants to be part of that. And so on that publication, we just did it. We just came out with launched the advertisement about 2 weeks ago. We've already sold 2 front page sponsorships for that. And again, it's not coming out till Veterans Day, which is in November, but we're already collecting the people, because again, people see that, and we've involved, and I think Bill was talking about, or Monica was talking, we've involved our county's Veterans Services Commission. We've involved all of the local American Legion and veterans of VFW, posts. They're all involved. They're all doing ads. They're helping to essentially advertise and promote this piece for us. And so
Kevin Adelstein spoke to us from the Jewish people.
oh yeah.
And he's like, we're not afraid to leverage guilt.
No, that's right. I mean, and that's what we're doing. We're going after, say, okay, let's see your red, white, and blue.
That's
Here, and then which will produce the green.
Yeah.
But with that, one of the other things we're looking at launching next year is a women in business special section. Okay, because one of the things that you see here and in the United States and it's, I'm sure other places, you always see women-owned business. Okay, and there are, in our county, there are a lot of women-owned businesses. Again, those people may not, depending on the nature of their business, they're not going to advertise in the newspaper, but boy, they'll advertise in like a magazine, that will go out, to everybody. And there we'll be involving our editorial staff to go out, talk to, some of these business owners about their success stories, how they made it, what advice they would have, so it's a real informative piece that somebody wants to get a hold of and read. Sure.
So just this idea of having like these kind of glossy magazines, are advertisers excited by it because they have a sense of it's actually people can keep it.
Yes.
People, and that is it. So there's a sense of like there's something that's lasting, and therefore the costs of this extra glossy paper and everything is well worth it because you can really leverage it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why some of the things you see are on the newsprint, but other things are on the glossy because, somebody's going to keep this in a drawer, a desk or whatever, forever. Somebody's going to keep this, forever. The Golden Geauga, which is our seniors, that's probably going to get thrown away once the next issue comes. You may look in there and see, okay, well, how about what assisted living facilities are there, or who's a provider of this, or who's a provider of that, but you're probably going to throw it away, but these, you won't do it.
Do you have
Yes.
a pitch deck? Something that we could look at. If I want to sell on a special, I want to do one of your publications in my office,
Right.
to my market. Do you have a sales pitch in your marketing that we can take away?
Yeah, well, and again, some of the stuff is we have there, and again, I'd be happy to send to you if anybody wants to email me. I can share with you the emails that we send out. Okay, so we have a large sort of database, okay? And in that database, we put people who advertise with us or decline to advertise with, we get them in there. Okay, that's what generates then our email. Now, one of the things you want to be careful of when you email like sort of a blast, we email blind carbon copy, because you may get, a guy who owns this business that doesn't want his email address known to, 800 other
Right.
people, because they don't want to be
Solicited by everybody. Yeah.
Okay, and so we BCC everybody. So we create the email, we do the BCC. I am the recipient. Okay, I'm the guy who it's going to, and then our salespeople are the CCs, on it. And but yeah, I'd be happy to share with you, what is, you basically we're coming out with this, special section. It's to honor, Geauga County's, current, past, veterans, servicemen and women. Here's what it's going to be. It's going to be a glossy publication. It's going to have, content. It's going to have free, the servicemen and women, and obviously we attach a rate card. We have a, we create a flyer, and I'll be happy. We just send you all the flyers.
That's what Shirley is after, the one sheet.
Yeah, we have the one sheets that we send out for every one of these things that we send out.
So Carl, you're talking about the emails. So do you have like a database of all your potential
Yes.
advertisers?
Yes.
And when you have the special feature, are you sending one email to everybody every time you do something, whatever your features, your special mags are,
Right.
or special features in your paper? Are you then targeting in one mail and like a bulk mail to your entire base, advertiser base?
So what we do is in our system, and we use a system called Fake Brains. I don't know, I think it's a horrible name, but it's what we use. And in there, we set up categories. So we'll set up a category for holidays in Geauga, for golden Geauga, for all that list, spring home, for we didn't want to call our thing called Fair Guide. So ours is called Barns, Farm, and Fair. Something a little different. Okay. So we set all that up. Okay. So we're able through our program to target, okay, first email that goes out are the ones who were in it last year, because we already have it in there, or for the past 3 years, we can send an email by that category. All right. And then maybe the next one is to everybody else but that, and then we'll send another one out, and that's how we generally market these things. And surprisingly, I'm very happy, knock on wood. We've only had a handful of people that say, please
Take me off.
take me off the list.
I just wanted to hear your views on something related to what she asked, relating to the pitch. How would you approach this scenario where you got a huge retailer here who you've been talking to for some time, and then they send you press releases, for example, to the editorial. Right. Different sections send you press releases, publish this. But when you pitch to advertising, they don't really pay attention. But then, the press release is not so bad. It could be talking about bursaries to poor kids.
Right.
And these are our readers.
Right.
It's an opportunity for them.
Yes.
But then again, when you talk to them about advertising, they don't want to support you.
Right.
They're rude and somehow they're just disrespectful. They don't pay attention.
Yeah.
See this check mark over here?
Yes.
Yeah.
The monthly press release, you provide them, you run them. You only get that when you've got the premium advertising content.
Yeah. So
That's our online.
So I'm coming there. So now, after consistency pushing all the time, they told me sometime in January, I don't have any supporting structure in terms of marketing. They said, what do I propose to them? What can I do some unique that apparently they take instance, and I mean, they stand on the sides of the traffic lights and they give it to people. People don't usually take those. They would take it and throw it away. It's worth something when it's in the newspaper because they're going to read the newspaper and check what's in there.
Right.
You get my point?
Yes.
So I got stuck. What can I offer different? What can I propose?
Right. So, so I think that's a problem
Everywhere.
everywhere.
These are the kind of things
Okay.
that an advertiser like that might, so they're never gonna run an ad in your paper, like just every Wednesday run an ad to promote their organization or their business. But who doesn't want to take time to congratulate the state championship team, or who doesn't want to wish everybody happy holidays? You may only get 3 ads from them a year, but at least you're getting something. One of our biggest hit lists that we came up with for that bicentennial section was, who are the top 25 employers in the county that we never get anything from? Maybe once in a while a help wanted ad, but even then, hardly anything. They all bought an ad in that bicentennial book because they wanted to be a part of it. And so I think I would focus on, when you come up with an idea for a section that could involve anybody, regardless of what kind of association or agency they run or what kind of business they have, those are the kind of, I'd keep my pitch to those kind of things. I wouldn't even talk about the regular paper to them. I'd just say, we have an opportunity for you to be part of something that we think you're really going to want to be a part of as a member of the community. It's a community pride piece. It's a, I think those kind of things,
They're easier.
in the market that I was in Circleville, we have a pumpkin show book that, I mean, it started as a paper special section that didn't generate, it generated okay money, but then we turned it into a glossy piece that everybody all of a sudden wanted in, and that thing would generate $30,000 in profit every October.
Circleville has an annual pumpkin festival that's famous.
It's
Like,
famous. Yeah, there's
nationally
like 200,000 people come to this festival to see the giant pumpkins. I mean, that's
The
literally
pumpkins
what
come
it
in on the
is.
backs of semis. They're enormous.
They're enormous.
Like the size of cars.
It's a big pumpkin growing contest is what it is, with a lot of food vendors and rides. But then we got other people in the community who never advertised any other time of year, but they were all in the pumpkin show book. And so I think finding just one piece to get them started. So it's something, yes, we do this every year. We're in this every year.
And here's another thing, just if I could, on the pitch, okay? So we all get those. We get a lot of those from nonprofit
Yeah,
type groups, okay? And you think about it, what does any advertiser nonprofit want? They want the newspaper as a platform for their advertising, but they don't want to pay. Okay, and oftentimes we'll get emails and somebody has created some like incredible flyer, or sort of ad talking about the event that they're doing. Okay. Well, you're like, okay, well, I do want to help support, and promote, United Way, and all these different things. I personally have had conversations where I will call the executive director or somebody else, and I say, look, I am happy to do this. We want to partner with you. I want to promote you. Okay. But, we're a for-profit business and we can't help promote you unless we're in business. Okay. So you create this wonderful ad, you create this wonderful flyer. Think about running it once. Okay. And we have, rates. We have this is a newspaper. For the newspaper, we have different rates. Okay, we have a rate for nonprofits, which is the lowest rate, which is the same rate as the government, we can charge the government, in Ohio. It's the same rate. So they're getting a big discount off what a for-profit, business is getting. And it has helped. It has helped, but you're never going to get them to consistently advertise. Some of the groups, let's say you find out like in your county, like their Job and Family Services or the economic development, they may get grant money or something from the state or whatever. Talk to them and help work with a campaign to like there's job fairs or whatever they do. A lot of times they get money for that.
Right.
Okay. To work on that way. The other thing is with the web, do all you guys have a website with your papers? Okay, a lot of times what we do for like those press release type things, we'll say, okay, we'll put it on our website. Because again, other than the time to do that, it doesn't cost you anything to upload or, basically publish somebody's, press release and you format it the way that you want it formatted and what have you. And maybe you put a little blurb, the who, what, when, and where, but then give more narrative in there. But that you'll build goodwill, to do it that way.
One
You know,
other
you
thing
also
you can
don't-
try.
You could play hardball. And this comes up all the time on the listserv for the International Society of Weekly Newspaper Editors, doesn't it, Al? This is like an annual, what do we do about the person who wants free publicity, doesn't want an ad? And I forget who it was who got so fed up with this one group that they actually went back and looked at a year's worth of all the free publicity and sent them like, this is what this would have cost you if we had charged you.
Right.
You remember who that was?
I don't remember, but there's a service called Critical Mention that you can subscribe to. I put a dollar value on publicity.
That's interesting.
It's, I forget what the charge is. Somebody subscribed for me on my behalf. But, if you really want an authoritative account of what something is worth, try Critical Mention.
So we had a rule when I was the regional publisher, because we always got hit up by people, oh, could you publicize this for us? We don't have money for an ad.
Or we spend our budget.
If you charge, we charge. If you are having a free event, we're not going to charge you to put it in the paper as a press release. If it's something you're charging for, then sorry, we have to charge you. And one thing that was successful a couple of times is we did have like United Way wanted to do a Relay for Life. They wanted ads in for some fundraising thing they were doing. They didn't have any budget to spend for an ad, but they had board members who worked for companies who do have money. And so what we did is we designed the ad, mocked it up for them and said, if you can get one of your board members, businesses to sponsor this ad, we can do that. And that was successful a couple of times where they had someone on their board who worked at the hospital and the hospital sponsored the Relay for Life ad. There was for the United Way, there was somebody that worked at the local community college and the community college sponsored the ad. So there's ways to get a little creative about it. But I think the best line to draw is if it's a free event, they aren't going to pay to put an ad in because now they don't even have a chance to recoup their marketing cost. But if they're charging, then they can afford something, or if they can find a way to afford something.
Well, and if it's a straight press release that's talking about their business, we require them to buy an ad to put that press release in. I mean, the press release is the ad and they can say sponsored by at the bottom. We don't run all those press releases. We don't run any of those press releases. If there's a true news value in it, we'll take that out. We take out any free advertising that they're trying to get.
Right.
Where do you run a business opening?
What?
The news?
We run a ribbon cutting photo as long as they have joined our Chamber of Commerce. And then we're very specific on who's allowed to be in the photo. It's the owner of the business, the Chamber of Commerce director, Chamber of Commerce board members, and if there's a representative or two from the village, because all of our ribbon cutting photos are 2 columns wide, and that's it. We identify everybody in the photo. in the caption. We don't run ribbon cutting photos that are 3 columns or 4 columns wide with 25 people in.
Right,
So
Franchisee whose owner is not even in the town.
right.
then it's a local manager. I mean,
You do that.
yeah, they have a local representative cutting the ribbon in the photo, but they have to be a member of our Chamber of Commerce. Because we also want to promote membership in our Chamber of Commerce. But we have that rule too, in terms of if it's an event, basically, whether they charge or not, because even if they don't charge, they'll take a free will donation. If money's exchanging hands, it has to be in an ad, whether it's a display ad or a classified ad. We don't, the only things that we will run publicity for, and we try to explain to people, there's a difference between publicity and news. And yours is publicity, and you are paying for paper to print flyers. You're paying for the food that's going to be served at the event. You need to be paying for the publicity so people know about your
Right.
event.
Right.
So we pretty much require an ad for any event that's being happened. We will run a few no charge classifieds for classes that our county people run. They're running instruction things for Medicare. We'll cut it down to the basics and we'll run that for free. But otherwise, we pretty much require ads for everything. Which
So we're
some
gonna
people
take
like,
Anita's
some people
question
don't.
and then we're gonna take a break and then we'll let Mary do her
Oh.
present. Is that okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry, but you know, we're getting to that.
Bill,
Yeah.
can I, before we get to, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And good with your articles, one of the things, again, you'll see for these special sections that we do as it's sort of an incentive for people to upsize their ad. With a certain minimum size ad, you get a 400 word, 300, depending on what it is, article. We don't write it. They have to submit it. Okay, but a lot of times these businesses want to submit something as well. Now, and what's great about it is, a lot of times they do it and they never submit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you saved that space, but yet they thought that they were getting some great perk, by going to the next size ad, because they get,
Advertorial.
the advertorial.
Yeah.
Is there, so for half a page ad, I'm going to give you a 300 word article. Do you have a size clause to be able to run advertorial for the clients?
We did
so-
when we did things like that.
Yeah,
If you ran, and we only had certain sizes in the section back then. So if you ran 1/8 of a page, you got up to this number of words. If you ran a quarter page, you got this number of words.
Right.
It's so good to
yeah, this because I always feel so bad, and I'm made to feel guilty, I think. I always feel I have a really abusive relationship with my advertisers and my community, because I really am the battered wife in this whole
Right,
scenario,
oh,
because they take advantage of, and
Yes.
I find it hard to say no. And then at the end of the day, I'm sitting with a huge sustainability issue
Right.
Yes,
for the same reasons as I've failed to create boundaries.
Yes.
yes.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
See, and I was lucky when I started at our newspaper in 1987. I mean, we have a family-owned paper that now my news editor and I own. And the family that owned it was very hard on the line between advertising and news. And I was lucky because the community knew it. So when we said no, no meant no. And they understood, okay, I have to buy an ad for that. Once you start saying no, that this has to be in an ad, because we have to charge to stay alive.
Right.
You do that enough and they will start to get the message, but you have to be consistent
Right.
and fair. And that's the thing we point out. If I give it to you for free, I have
Right.
to give it to him for free and her for free. We have to be consistent in our rules. And as
But-
long as you're consistent, people will accept it. I had an advertiser one time who complained to me, her local paper, she had asked them to put a news item in for something, and they said no. And another business went to that same newspaper and they said yes to them, and it was the exact same thing. And she said, I appreciate the fact that you told me no, and because you don't do it for anybody. And
Right.
she got our paper. She knew we didn't do it for anybody. As long as you're consistent and fair, they will start to accept it.
And one of the things too on that, think about this. Do you have something else that can win them over? You say no, but can you say, hey, but I'll tell you what, we will print the longer release on our website. We will print the longer release or share it on our Facebook page or our social media. Oh, hey, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you've taken care of your print, you set the boundary for the print, but yet you haven't really ticked them off because you gave them an alternative to, get out there what they were hoping, to get out there on a platform that, again, that doesn't cost, having a Facebook account doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So it's a great way to really, build goodwill.
All right, we're gonna get to Anita's question. She is
All
by
right.
far our most patient.
I just want to say thank you to the panel. This is really a refreshing session. I want to ask, in our country, we battle with advertising agencies, which make it very, very difficult for us. And it seems as if you don't have that problem with you, or do you?
Probably
How do we battle? I mean, can you explain that?
What happens is that you would approach a client and then you will discover that the client is represented by an agency.
Okay.
So the agency, they just omit you. At the local publications, they focus on mainstream only. Doesn't matter how good you are in that community, you are doing what you're doing and you're doing your best, but they will never look at you. That's why we have big retailers in South Africa that is operating in our communities, but is not supporting our community newspapers. So how do you have that? And if you have it, how do you deal with it?
Well, we deal with agencies, but only for
Big
businesses. For instance,
Grocery
insurance
store.
companies.
Or
Okay.
grocery stores.
Right,
Hospitals.
just
Hospitals,
let's say
yeah.
Aetna, Aetna Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll deal with an agency. I believe the agency is out of Minnesota or something like that.
Yes.
Well, how we struggle, they basically say, this is what we're gonna pay.
Yes.
We don't accept
Yes.
You either accept it or you don't.
We
And so I sit there, well, for me, I look at it, if it's an insert, okay, I look at it and I think, okay, well, I don't make a lot, but it doesn't cost me. And I mean, I know what it cost me, it cost me $15 per 1,000 to insert it in my papers. Okay, well, they're paying me X. I'm not doing anything. They're sending the inserts to my printer. All they're doing is sticking them in. As long as it doesn't increase my postage, because a lot of them are single sheets, I'll do it.
And your readers like it.
And the readers like it, because again, other businesses see it in there, so as long as I'm not losing money on it, it's easy for me. But we also, for the hospitals, we deal with an agency out of Cleveland who handles, because they handle a lot of it, and they've been, for us, perfect.
Yeah.
They submit the ads, they're all camera ready ads.
Yeah.
We charge the regular rates. They're great.
We deal with agencies at the association level, and what I have found is the ones that you can develop a personal relationship with, you can get a lot further with. And
Yes.
so if there's any of these agencies that are located in your town, call them up, ask the person who is, their main salesperson, I want to take you to lunch. I want to know what you do. Get to know them, and then they'll be less likely to, they'll be more cooperative. We have an agency in Cleveland, the Singleton Agency, that we can call and pitch things to, and they can pitch to some of their customers. We feel like we have a really good relationship with them. There are times though when they say, look, here's the quote you gave me. Here's what my client has to spend, and you have to make something and we have to make something. And is there any way we can negotiate on this price a little bit? they are partners. There are other agencies like, I guess it would be what, News America Marketing and those
Right.
places that sell inserts. If you say no, they hang up the phone, they don't
Yeah,
care.
let's move on
they're
to somebody else.
They move on to some, so and they're located way far away. They're not part of the community. The ones that you can get to for an in-person meeting, I'd start with those and try to develop a little bit of a rapport so they understand, hey, look, when she's asking me for this, that's what she really needs for that ad, and if you do give any discounts like John's talking about, for multiple runs, maybe that's something you can throw out there when you meet with the person. Just say, I just don't know if you understand that we offer discounts if your client runs 3 or more times. And because sometimes they don't know that information, but if they do, then it might help them make a sale and make it, instead of just a 2 run, now it's a 3. So one thing I do want to say on John's media kit, he doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I've seen a lot of media kits. His is awesome.
It's pretty slick.
It is first class. It is so easy to understand. If you are a salesperson, I could go out with that all day long and sell ads all day long, because every piece of information I need is right there. It tells me when the home section prints. It tells me when there are so many
But it's
people.
Calculate ad size.
Simple. I mean,
And
it's not text heavy.
No.
It looks like it's got lots of information. It does, but it has charts.
The
It has lots
advertiser,
of photos. It's clean, airy designs. The design itself communicates profession.
yeah, it's very
That's
professional, very professional looking. All the information the salesperson and the prospect need is right there. You don't know how many times I've seen salespeople go out with sales flyers that are missing key pieces of information because they were thrown together. It's, well, here's our, fair section, and here's how much the ad is, and it doesn't say when the deadline is. It doesn't say when it publishes. It's
Nobody follows the deadlines, but it's.
but they're there, right? Okay, those are, the goal is there.
And also
But-
rates are there. Remember what Milo said? We have a rate card and we never deviate. It gets to Mary's point of consistency.
Right.
You start working side hustles and little deals,
Yep.
word gets out, they talk about it.
They
Next
do.
thing you know, it's like, oh, that person got something I didn't
Yep.
get. I want it. And next thing you know, it's like dealing with a group of South African publishers.
Right.
We need to take a break. I'm sorry, but we're gonna take a 10-minute break, please, 10 minutes, okay? And then Mary's gonna present.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Where's the bathroom?
There's many. Are we streaming? We're both. Mary, you've got the floor. Just tell me how to drive.
Okay, so just to go over a couple of things that came out of the first part. Regarding agencies. We don't have a lot of agencies that place directly with us. I mean, it's really gone down in the numbers the past several years. But we charge agencies the same thing we charge everybody else. We don't give special discounts because they're begging us, well, so-and-so paper's only paying this amount. I need for you to come down to that or better. We charge the same thing. If they want to accept that, that's fine. If they don't want to accept it, that's fine. But I want to be able to look my local advertisers in the eye and say, they're paying the same thing you are. They're not getting a special deal because we try to be as fair as we can to everybody. And I was telling her, my favorite story goes back at least 15 years. We're a family-owned independent newspaper. We aren't part of a group. We are a small paper. And we were owned by the Taylor family up until 2019, when my news editor and I bought the paper because he was ready to retire. But before then, he set very strict rules about advertising versus news. We don't give special deals. We don't give special discounts. If you give a discount, you give it to everybody. And we had these gold and silver shows that traveled around Ohio for a weekend. They'd come to your city or village like we are. And I got a call, and it was several weeks prior to them coming to Archbold. And they were going to be in Archbold for a weekend. They wanted to run a double truck with full color for $600. And I said, and we give discounts on full pages, but I said a double truck with full color in our paper costs $2,005. That includes a discount. Well, I can only pay $600. I said, that's your decision, but our price is $2,005. He kept calling me back. Same price. 1 week, he finally asked for my publisher. So I put Ross on the phone with him, and I could tell he was trying to make Ross come down in price. And Ross just said, I don't know, it's whatever Mary says, that's the price. Puts him back on the phone with me because he didn't get anywhere with my publisher. The Monday before the paper came out, we come out on Wednesday. Deadline is at noon. He calls me at 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay, you know we have to get an ad in your paper because this event is being held in your town. I said, that's your decision if you want to put an ad in our paper or not. The price is $2,005. I've got to be able to show my people that I'm getting a discount. Will you take $2,000? And I said, okay, I'll give you $5 off. So $2,000, they had to prepay and they had to get me the ads before noon, which he did. So they will pay it if you hold firm. And we do that with everybody. The Aetna people, like John was talking about, I mean, our price is our price. If you don't want to pay it, that's fine, but we don't bend on the rules. And you have agencies who say all the time, we're not going to run with you if you don't go with our price. I mean, in some cases, we would be paying to put their insert in, like Velasquez coupons. I mean, what they wanted to pay us, I would be losing money. So I said, and we're talking $19 a thousand versus $96 a thousand, which is what we charged for that size. And they've gradually learned over the years, that's what their price is. And they paid our full price for the coupon inserts when they run with them. So sometimes you just have to hold firm because you will get your price. It's their job to get you down as far as you can. But then in some cases, they just go back to the advertiser and charge them what you would be charging normally anyway. Yes. And they're keeping the difference. So stand firm. Yes. Another thing coming out of the first session, one thing we don't do a lot of special sections anymore because I am down to 3 people in the office. My front desk person who handles classifieds, subscriptions, phone calls, my news editor, and me. And I do advertising, sports, run the business, take photos. I don't have an ad rep since May of 2022. I don't have an ad makeup person since July of 2022. So I can't do a lot of special sections anymore. It's hard to get all that stuff done. We do a lot more special pages where it's a one-time off, like a photo page. Your sports, if you have sports photographers, whether they're stringers like I have, or me that takes pictures, you have all these extra photos. Sell a page, put the photos on there. I have 2 sponsors at the bottom with 3 column by 5-inch ads. Sometimes I put one of the photos that they take in their ad and I charge a set price and people love those because they're extra photos. So we do a lot more things like that versus we do 2 special sections a year anymore, and it's graduation edition and Christmas greetings, which have letters to Santa and businesses wishing people a Merry Christmas. Otherwise, it's a lot more individual special pages or a couple of pages. When we do our fair pages and we do what's called an honor roll of businesses, which I will be going over, what we do, we offer a prepaid discount. So you're getting money in right away instead of a discount. Our prepaid discount is basically, if you prepay, you're basically paying the open rate. If you don't prepay, you're paying a premium. So you're not really giving a discount because you're getting the price you were going to charge them anyway. But it gets money in because they think they're getting a deal. And if they don't pay upfront, we charge them on their normal monthly bill and they're paying a higher price. So that's the way we do a couple of our projects. It's especially great during the times of year when things are slow, like January, February. It's getting money in right away versus having to wait 30 or 60 days for payment. So that's one thing that we do. I'm sure all of you have ticked off advertisers at one time or another, and they've pulled any advertising that they did with you. We had a car dealer who we did that with. He didn't like the fact that in one of our news photos where, and I didn't think we should have run this anyway, but we did. In the photo, we cut off the license plate that had his name on it. And he pulled his advertising. He was going to make us pay and at least not run $10,000 worth of advertising to teach us a lesson. Well, that went on and on and on. Sometimes with people like that, you just have to find a sweet spot to get them back into the paper. Since then, he really doesn't run ads in any newspaper for the car dealership part because he sells so many cars online. But what we have gotten him to do is sponsor photo pages, sponsor sports photo pages, sponsor the kids when they do plays and you take pictures of the casts. Just anything that is kid related, he will help to sponsor. So it's a work around the fact that he doesn't run car advertising anymore, but he wants to sponsor things. So we have gotten a lot of money back by doing that. So if you can find a sweet spot with those advertisers who are ticked off at you, you can get their business back. And there was one time back 1991, Archbold was celebrating its 125th anniversary, which was the Quasco Centennial Edition. We had an advertiser who was mad at us because of an editorial that we ran. And he pulled all of his advertising. And we were coming up with the Quasco Centennial Edition, which ended up being 3 sections. I forget how many pages. And he called us and he said to me, I've got to run something in that. I said, that's your decision, whether you want to run something in it. I have to be in that. Well, he ran a full page and then came back. But we knew at any time he was an advertiser who could pull his advertising, not think twice about it. You have to just live with that, but have something maybe coming up that he wants to be in because it will look really strange if he's not in something like that. So always keep those things in mind. Even the advertisers who pull their money, maybe will do one of the special things that John does. And you can get them back in the paper that way because people will comment to them on their ads. So remember that. And regarding social media engagement, our best thing that ever happened to us, not the school district necessarily. We had a school bus hit by a semi going 55 miles an hour. It ran into the back of it. And luckily no kids were killed. Most of the kids were already off the bus. The school bus driver saw the semi coming in her rearview mirror and told the other couple of kids that were on the bus to brace. I mean, it pushed the school bus into the front yard of the house where she was stopped. We posted something on our Facebook page quick about it, but that house also happened to have a business who had security camera footage. And he had security camera footage of the semi hitting the back of the bus that his kids had just gotten off of. The owner of that house posted that security camera footage on our Facebook page. He shared it with us. And we ended up, went viral. We had over 300,000 views on our Facebook page we had people calling us from Fort Wayne, a news station, asking if they could share it. We had bus drivers calling from different areas, wanting people to see that. So you never know when something is going to happen that your Facebook page all of a sudden just goes wild. But I mean, it blew us away in terms of watching this semi hit this school bus. So once again, something could go viral and you never know it's going to go viral because something shares something on your website. Somebody shares something. So that was just a couple things I wanted to bring up. So the Archbold Buckeye is a 1700 circulation paper. We come out on Wednesdays. We are based in Archbold, Ohio, which is in the extreme northwest corner of the state. We border Michigan and we're one county from Indiana. But Archbold also, it's a village of 4,500 people, and we are the home of Sauter Woodworking, which I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Sauter Woodworking, but it's ready to assemble furniture. And it actually started in the village in 1934. Sauter Woodworking is North America's leading producer of ready to assemble furniture and one of the top 5 residential furniture manufacturers in the US. Between that and the other industries that we have in town, even today, we've lost a bunch, but we have so many people coming into our village to work there, and having Sauter Woodworking, LaChoy Food Products, it really helps Archbold stand out in Northwest Ohio just because of those couple of industries alone. When I started at the Buckeye in 1987, so I've been there a long time, I left teaching. I taught for 4 years and went to the Buckeye and have stayed there ever since. But back then, our county had 5 newspapers based in the county, all weeklies. We are the only one that's left today. We had 2 of them close. We had 2 of them that just within the past couple of months merged into a big corporation called AIP-Media. So we're the only one that's left in the county, that's based in the county, owned in the county. Like I said, we're just a small independent paper. Basically, when you start at the Buckeye, it's almost like you're a lifer. I've been there since 87. David Pugh, my news editor, started 4 years before I did. Just within the past couple of years, we've had people retire that worked there for anywhere from 22 years to 35 years. Plus the owners retired. So when you start at the Buckeye, it just seems like you hang around a very, very long time. And you will see later, I brought a box of Almeida chocolates. One of my former bosses owns Almeida chocolates.
For later.
I always have to share Almeida chocolates.
Getting paid a pro bono for that.
I
On the live stream.
I paid for that box of Almeida chocolates. But no waxes or anything in the chocolates, they're all hand dipped. So we are the home of Almeida chocolates, but it's nice to have a boss or former boss who sometimes brings up chocolates just to share with everybody because they're not perfect. So if you could ever do that, it just gives your employees an extra little incentive sometime. So we at the Buckeye, because we are so small, we are doing a lot of jobs, which I think a lot of you can relate to. You're not just a news editor, you're not just a publisher, you're doing a whole bunch of different jobs. And that's what I can relate to. So like I said, we don't do a lot of special sections just because I don't have the manpower for it anymore. I have 2 stringers who write certain things. But I don't have my staff anymore that I used to have that we could publish a lot of big sections. Coming up in 2 years, our fire department is celebrating its 125th anniversary. And they already have talked to us. They would like us to do a special section like we have done for other groups celebrating their 100th anniversaries. And at this point, I'm trying to think, how am I going to do this? Just because we don't have the manpower anymore. But we have a lot of photos. So we'll probably make it very photo heavy, and we will have a lot of people buy ads in that section because they all want to support the fire department.
Right.
And we will probably work it out where we're going to charge a little extra for the ads, and then we'll make a donation to the fire department from the advertising revenue. Makes you look good, and it's a way for people to honor the fire department and make a donation to them. So that's another thing you can do. Yeah.
So just a question, because I mean, it's so true of all publications. It's just this idea of like, you literally don't have the person power. So what do you do? Because that could be a really amazing way to make more money, but now you're like in this catch-22, like, what do you do? So, would you look at, like, for instance, students, like, for instance, talking to a journal department and saying to the journal department, you know what, actually, would you help us work on supplements and special editions, and you get the experience of like producing them, and we get the supplements, or would it not work? I mean, just a thought, because we're talking about bringing in students potentially in terms of our publications. Yeah,
we would if we had any colleges that were close to us that had journalism programs. We have a community college that doesn't have a journalism program. And we have a private college that used to have some courses in journalism, but I don't think does anymore. We're just up in the boonies where we don't have anything close like that. We had discussed it back a number of years ago. But yeah, it's for us.
Also, it's hard. I mean, I would love to have a class that we could do that. Students wouldn't take it. We wouldn't get enough students to take it but we'd get 5 students maybe, and the class would be canceled for low enrollment. So the kids, they want to do the flashy stuff. They want to do the sexy stuff. They don't want to do anything that's substantive.
Well, yeah, we had a pretty good track record in Athens with getting some Ohio University students to intern, but it wasn't like you didn't have like a whole second staff full of students. You maybe got 2 per semester.
But they cover sports and government.
A lot of times they cover sports and government. If you had something that you knew was coming up as a special section, that could be their project for the semester, I think they probably would feel like they got more out of it just because they would have a finished.
There was a time when that was true. I mean, when I was in college, I spent my summers doing the fall sports tab for my local newspaper. It was a great experience. I loved it. It's really hard to find students who want to do that kind of work.
Absolutely.
If they think it's beneath them.
Yeah,
And we tell them it's not. We tell them it's excellent experience. We also tell them to follow instructions and brush their teeth. They don't do that either, so.
It doesn't feel glamorous.
That's
right.
And I suppose the students now want to do something glamorous. They want to do something on TikTok.
They want to do podcasts. They want to
About
do
10 years ago, there was a national
thanks.
study of high school students asking, what did they want to be when they grew up? And, the traditional was teacher, firefighter, astronaut, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Number 1 was rich and number 2 was famous.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So anyway.
And we used to have high school kids. We used to have high school kids help to write sports. And my best sports writer ever was actually a high school kid who wrote for me for 3 years. He took very little editing. He wanted to be a sports writer for a newspaper when he graduated from high school. And he was. He moved around a couple of dailies until he learned that he could make more money working in a factory with less hours. So he isn't one anymore, which is too bad. But it got to the point with the high school stringers that I worked with. And I learned this after being at a game when they wrote a report on it. I was taking photos and I was keeping track of play-by-play, so I knew what my photos were for. And the high school writer that I had the whole beginning of the game wrong. And I called her and I said, okay, I was there. This is what happened. And she said, oh yeah, I wasn't taking notes at that point. I was cheering. So I just kind of went on memory.
Oh gosh.
And it was completely wrong. And so I kind of got away from using high school stringers. I have one really good adult stringer who takes photos for me. He also writes a column for me now that people love. But I've gotten away from using high school kids. Last year, we had an issue with our state wrestling photos. My stringer had to leave because he got sick. And so we thought we had arranged for the high school yearbook photographer to get us some photos that Monday, and they finally sent them on the following Friday. So we're really careful anymore about who we say yes to that say they
Yeah.
will help, because it just doesn't work.
I think if you find like that person, like you're talking about, that this is what they want to do,
Yeah,
and they don't view being treated like a member of the staff as being beneath them. Like, you know, you're going to go out and you're going to help us put together a special section on, you know, the fall sports preview. You've got to take team photos. It's boring, but you've got to do it. And you got to get all the names right. And that's just part of it. If you can find those people that, you know, whether they're high school or college students who they know that this is what they want to do. I mean, we've had some really great interns. And I'll get to that in a second. We have some really great interns at the Messenger that actually are national media people that whose names you would recognize. And they were interns. Some of them worked under me. And the key is you have to identify pretty quickly, like, don't take 5 because you can get 5, because 4 of them are probably not worth anything and not worth your time. And they take more of your management time to figure out what they're doing. Take the one that's going to be motivated and self-sufficient and doesn't view this all as beneath them, and pay them. I mean, you've got to pay them. You can't expect them to work for free. You have to pay them something. I mean, they're taking their car and their gas and driving to the football game, and then they're staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning writing the story for you. You have to pay them something. And so I think those people are out there. I think John's experience with finding some people who are almost like an extension of your sales staff who can go out and sell special sections. And the one thing, when he was describing that, I'm like, man, I can't even imagine how. And then he showed the media kit. That's how he does it, because he is so organized, and everything they need to make their sales pitch is right there. They're not constantly, hey, John, I'm in front of a customer and they're asking this. And, you know, he's giving them the material so they have the confidence to go out and approach people, and it works. And I think there's ways that you can do that. One of the things that we talked about earlier, partnering with somebody else. One of the things we did at my papers, we partnered with all of the CVBs where we had a newspaper, and they have money to spend.
what's a CVB?
Convention and Visitors Bureau. We produced their travel guides, but we produced means we sold the ads. We designed the ads. We sent it, we got it printed. They provided all the editorial content because they knew what they wanted featured. They provided the photographs. They had a graphic designer that they had basically, here's your cover, here's your this, and they distributed it. So look for those partnerships where you're gaining resources by partnering with this organization. They couldn't do it without us selling the ads. They didn't have anybody that worked at the Visitors Bureau that could sell advertising. They didn't want anything to do with that. They didn't care that we kept the money for the advertising. They wanted a finished piece to distribute at the end of the day. And so look for those opportunities where you can partner with somebody and they're bringing something to the table, not just, gee, we'd like you to do this for us. It's, well, what can you put in? What can you contribute? Is it money so we can hire somebody? Is it a staff person who's going to help produce the content? So those are the opportunities I'd look for.
Yeah, it's a special section, so you don't want to hand it off to some untrained, semi-interested student. It really needs to go to somebody who's committed to it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mary.
No problem.
But we need to get to the fancy stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, just another money-making thing, because I saw most of you have websites. Do you post your obituaries on your website?
No.
Okay, what we do, because we come out on Wednesdays. So that means if somebody dies on Wednesday, to get it in our print product, it can't go till the next Wednesday. So we have it arranged with our local funeral homes, most of them, that we will post the obituary and the photo if they send one right away. In fact, I think I probably will have one waiting for me when I get to someplace that I can get my computer hooked up. we will post them on our website immediately. And our website provider, which is ourhometown.com, has a shout out feature. So once I get it posted, let's say I post it today at 1 o'clock, I do a shout out. And people can sign up for a newsletter that anytime we post something on our website, they'll get a little email saying, hey, this is up on our website now. They can either click on the link or go straight to the website. As long as they have a subscription, an online subscription, they can look at the obituary so they can see who just died that was a friend of theirs. So we charge an extra whopping $10 to do that. But our obituaries are paid obituaries and they are charged by the column inch. So we put it on our page first. We figure out the price that includes the funeral information, the visitation information, any other information that may be expired by the time the paper comes out the next week. And our price for the obituary is measured by that total length. So sometimes that's an extra $20 or $30 on top of the extra $10 charge to post it on the website right away. Then when the paper comes out, we take out the visitation information. We change the tenses. So the memorial services were held. Interment was in the Pettisville Cemetery. So we'll take out anything that doesn't work anymore by the time the print product comes out. Most of our funeral homes say, yeah, I mean, it's hardly anything to them. And the family pays for it anyway. And they have asked for it in some cases to be put up on our website right away. So people know the funeral's coming that next weekend. So it's an extra way to get some extra revenue if you can do something like that. So I would just suggest that. And our obituaries, like I said, are behind a paywall. So not just anybody can go read it, but we offer a 1-week subscription for $5 on our website. And we will have people pay the $5 for breaking news, like when we had a man get caught in a grain elevator. We had people from around the country paying $5 to read what we had posted as breaking news, because we were the only newspaper that was there taking not photos of him coming out, but photos of our emergency people trying to get him out. So once again, provides extra revenue if you can get a 1-week online subscription. And I always recommend they do it so that they can actually get 2 issues of the paper. If they time it right, if they buy it on a Thursday, they can get that issue and the next week's issue. So it's a deal for them.
Okay, one of the things on that, I have a little different approach to some of that. We offer a lot of digital advertising. And we've been successful at it. So I'm trying to draw people to our website. So we have a hybrid paywall. Our obituaries, things like school news are all in front of the paywall because I'm trying to drive people to our site. And then I turn around and use those numbers, to go to the businesses. And I think Bill had, a screen on there to take one of our packages, whether it's a single, a double, triple, or what we call a home run. And it's all kind of based on impressions, and how many times people will see your ad. So I put things out, quite a bit outside. I'll put stories that are big stories that I know the Cleveland papers will pick up, or I'll put those outside the paywall because there's no exclusivity I have. People can jump on, the internet, Cleveland.com, or watch it on the radio, TV. And I'm like, why are they gonna, why am I gonna frustrate people? Because I want people to come to our website because I'm using I'm capturing those numbers for other purposes.
And we will do that sometimes. We'll put up news for free. We'll post it on our Facebook page, a teaser, and refer to our website and tell people they can see it for free. Right. And that drives them to the website.
Yeah. You're trying to drive traffic.
Yeah. And just as something with our paper, we're 100% local. We don't use wire services. We very rarely use filler unless they're recipes to fill a little hole. But yeah, we're 100% local with our news coverage. If you, do you guys have things like police logs and court news where you're from, or don't you? Where you can get who's suing who got charged with traffic tickets. If you have something like that, that's called public record in our paper. And those are the most popular pages in our paper. People want to see who got stopped for speeding, who got in trouble, various things. And our police log especially is very well read. And the times you know it's well read is when there's an entry in it called that somebody called the police that there was a cat wearing a sweater crossing the street. That is, kids posted at one point what their favorite entry in the police log was. And we're talking high school kids. And that was one of their favorite entries, with cat wearing a sweater crossing the street. We don't have a lot of murders and stabbings, but we have cats wearing a sweater crossing the street in Archbold, Ohio. So it's very popular pages, has the accidents.
And if you're lucky to have a police secretary with a sense of humor, the police log can be very entertaining.
Yes, yes.
We have people subscribe just
To read the blotter.
to read the blotter, and that's one of the things we have behind the paywall.
Yeah.
Because people want to read that stuff.
And if something happened to their neighbor, they want to know what happened. So especially when you're talking all these scams that we're having happen. We had a lady who lost $18,000 in a scam last week. And that was a breakout article. It was also in the police log. It's just a way of warning people. These things are out there. They sound legitimate, but they're not.
And if you have a police department that's reluctant to provide this information, and sometimes they don't like the press and they have kind of an attitude toward that, you say, well, this is how the community knows that you're doing your job.
Yeah.
This is basically affirming to the community that you are on duty doing what you want. And it's just, it's as with anything else, it's how you pitch it. If you pitch it as this holds you accountable, well, they're like, well, screw you. I don't need to be held accountable. I do just like, this is to celebrate that you're out there.
Yeah.
Even though you spend a lot of time on routine stuff, but that's what it's doing. It's reminding the community like, oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to give this to you.
And it's also taking care of rumors out on the street.
Yeah.
This is what happened. Did you see it? Well, we publish in the paper what actually happened.
Right.
And the police appreciate that, because a couple weeks ago, we had a case where they pulled somebody over and the guy wouldn't get out of the car. And somebody had it on video that they were not being the nicest, trying to get him out of the car. And we published the true facts of what happened, and it settled the community down.
And
So
like, here's an example of a police item that was broken out as a police brief. Because it's more interesting than just the blotter stuff, but it's backed with the blotter. And the logs.
Yeah, a word of caution, the lawyer in me, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
To what you put in there.
Yeah.
A lot of allegedlys.
Yeah, a lot of times what I do is with ours is I will take out, unless it's absolutely critical, a business's name. I won't put a person's name in there, because as we all know, anybody can sue for anything. And so, I'm very careful about giving some business.
There's also an ethical argument in defense of keeping the names out, because we can't follow these cases all the way through to the end.
Right.
We know that somebody's been arrested, but rarely do we know if they've been charged formally, or if they've been found guilty or acquitted or anything else. We can't cover the trial for every bad check.
Right.
So some newspapers do, some don't. I've been advising newspapers, look, you're letting the people know what happened, when it happened, where it happened, who was involved is not that critical. They're not going to remember the name of the person who was accused of passing 16 bad checks at different stores. They're going to remember the 16 bad checks.
Right.
They're going to remember which stores were hit or which area it was. They're going to remember that information. The name is kind of immaterial. And as John says, that name can get you in trouble.
Except I have something that goes against what you just said. Years ago, I had a clothing store. Every week he looked to see who was in the court news for passing bad checks, because he wanted to see if any of his customers were in that list that he needed to watch out.
Yeah, but then you run the John Smith problem. Of John
Oh.
Smith is a very common name. Even a small
Right.
community can have 3 or 4 John Smiths.
Yeah,
Which John Smith is it?
we are very careful
Yeah.
on,
Or then it turns out
the
John
names.
Smith didn't write a bad check. It was a good check. There was something wrong with the bank when they
Right.
deposited, but yet you put his name in there as somebody doing a bad check, you're gonna get sued.
I think if it's a big enough incident that you're gonna follow from beginning to end, and there's really no question about that, like somebody gets charged with arson for lighting the library on fire, you're gonna follow that through to the end, that you might go ahead and report more on it. But if it's something that you know, you're not gonna go back to see if this person was actually convicted of DUI or not,
And there's
then don't
different
put it
schools of
in.
thought on that.
But-
There are some who run every single name because it's
Yeah.
in the police
Yep,
record, and that
that's
does
what we
give you
do.
some protection. People can still sue you, but they will not win. if
Right.
It's in the police record,
Yeah.
right? And there's some like, this is the record. We need to have the name. There's an argument for that as well. It's just reasonable people can disagree, but a lot of it has to depend on your community. There are some communities where putting the name of every drunk driver in there is viewed as a deterrent for. drunk driving.
allegedly
Right.
drunk driver.
Exactly.
Right.
Just whatever whichever way you go, be consistent, and
Yeah.
then you will minimize any problem you have. There really becomes a problem is, well, I put Mary's allegation in, but I didn't put John's.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
it's because you play golf with John every Wednesday, that's where.
The
you
famous
just-
Jim Shoemaker, editor of the Chapel Hill Weekly, and inspiration for the comic strip Shoe. He was a character, but he got arrested for drunk driving. He put his name in there. He's like,
Yeah.
editor arrested for drunk driving. And he's like, if I'm gonna put other people's names in there, I'm gonna put my own in there.
And our rule is if one of the newspaper people get arrested for something like drunk driving or whatever, it goes on the front page, because we want people to see our names go in, just
Right.
like yours do, but ours go on the front page.
I've only been on the front page as a byline.
Yeah.
Me too.
I've only been in the paper because somebody
It helps that you have
stole my identity.
representation with you at all times, John.
What's that?
It helps that you have representation with you.
That's
Yes.
right.
yes. And I know
Okay.
a lot of the law enforcement.
But on a more serious note, we do a lot for our communities, and that
Like,
really
you
showed up.
Even have ads, I don't know if you can pull up, but you even have ads like,
Which one did you want, Monica?
well, on your record pages, do you have ads on,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
People want to be on those pages.
Cause they know that they're
They're very well
well-read
read.
content.
All old people read those pages,
You guys
for
have
sure.
charge premiums or offer premiums to be on certain pages or certain sections of the paper?
Just on the front page. We charge double the normal rate,
Page 3 is 34.
Yes, very popular.
so.
The other thing, did you have real estate transfers on there?
Yep.
That's another thing,
right
people
there.
like to read those.
Under the deaths in the 5th column over, right above Crime Stopper. That's all we had for that particular week.
You know, one of the things, and, you know, because again, it's all public record that we get it up by here would be your county auditor's office, sends the property sales and all that. We get real estate firms to sponsor the real estate transfer section. We get title companies
Yeah.
to add, they want to be on the page with the real estate transfers. We publish it online. They want to have their ad on the page with the real estate transfers with a link. If you click on the ad, you go to their website. It's for those, again, it's niche stuff
Yeah.
that, they won't go anywhere else, but they want to go there.
Now, there are some public records that used to be published in all newspapers, but they've suspended it for a number of reasons, like marriage licenses and especially divorces.
No, we put those
Still
in.
do.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. There's a lot who stopped doing that because it became contentious in the community.
Yes.
Oh, we have published it so long, everybody knows it's gonna be in the Buckeye.
Yeah.
That's the
And
thing.
also birth notices used to
Yep.
be wonderful, and then people figured out how to use the newspaper to make paternity claims. And so some newspapers stopped doing birth announcements because mama would come in and say, the father is so-and-so, and the father's like, what? The alleged father.
It was in the paper.
We used to do the DUIs. We don't do any of that stuff. We do the sheriff's report. That's it, you know. Now the other one too, and I don't know, Mary, like we get calls where, you know, we'll have you know, somebody may be in the paper with the real estate transfers. They bought a house or something and they will call up and say, can you remove that from
Yeah.
your website? Okay,
No,
I do.
I don't.
Okay, again, if somebody sits, but again, it's not automatic. If somebody says, look it, I have I'm in a divorce, I've left the state, I'm over here. I don't care. So that for me, I will take their name. It's still on Google. It's still, you know, I can't take it down from Google.
Why would you take it down from the newspaper?
Because I look at things and I am not there to put somebody at risk. Okay, it's not like I'm taking their name off of a news story. I'm taking it off that they bought a house or they sold a house. Okay, I balance things. And in my balance there, you know, I want to respect their right to privacy, because the only reason I'm publishing is people are snoopy and want to know what somebody sold a house for.
Yeah.
Well, but in some cases, they're neighbors who are trying to see, you know, what comps are around. Okay, they sold their house for this amount. Now I kind of have an idea of what my house is worth.
You
They
can do
they
that
can,
on- you
they
do
can
that
find it on
online.
the.
But for the newspaper,
You're both
we're
right.
publishing,
The answer is you're both right. You do
Yeah.
what's right for your community.
right,
Exactly.
exactly.
So the difference is in your case, it doesn't affect anybody's dignity.
No,
In this case, it does.
Right.
In which you are, it's important
Right.
consideration.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the way I view things is we are part of the community. You know, we're an ally, you know, of the community. So I look at things and I'm very practical. I make business decisions based upon, you know, kind of the pro and the con and what's the net effect. Things that I think are jeopardize the integrity or whatever the paper and material things, I won't touch. But things that really are really not all that important at the end of the day, I'm willing to work with someone.
so everybody, yeah, everybody has their own views of how they want their paper to run.
There's a lot of people that called when I was managing the Athens paper in particular. College student got in trouble for something while they were a college student. It had been in the paper.
Underage drinking.
But it's the first thing that comes up when somebody puts their name in Google. What we did with that is we made it so it wasn't as easy for Google to find it. We took some of the tags off of the story so it couldn't be found in a search as easily. And we told them, but if somebody knows the date and they know that
Right.
this happened, the archives are still there and there's no way we can take it out of that. But we did work with them to make it less easy for somebody to find their name. The one that really got me was somebody who had a very similar name, a very common name. And every time they went on a job interview, this article came up and it wasn't them.
Yeah.
And so in that case, that was like, well, we've never had anybody who the story wasn't about them, but they had the same name. They both went to Ohio University around the same time. And so they kept getting confused with this person and it was having a real negative impact. We helped them out and we made it so that article wasn't as easy to find.
And the
anymore.
EU's right to be forgotten law complicates things because it applies to, if it's read in Europe, it applies. So if they read a newspaper in the United States and they want it taken in Europe and they want it taken down, the law extends. So
Yeah.
it's really complicated things. But we need to get to the fun
Okay,
stuff.
well, one more thing. The next slide just shows how important local newspapers can be.
Which one?
The 4/20/11 issue would have been the next slide. Or the next PDF that I sent you,
This is April 20th.
20, 2011. I was in the grocery store one Saturday and I forgot potato chips, ran back to the potato chip aisle.
Wait, what date there?
No, that's not it.
April 2011. April
There you go.
2011.
That's the one.
Okay.
Archibald elevator license suspended. So I was in the potato chip aisle and I had a person who saw me down there and she said, boy, I know what's going to lead your paper next week. And I said, what? Archibald elevator. What? The license was suspended. What? The owner embezzled millions of dollars. They came in, they shut down the Archibald elevator, suspended the green license.
Well, you might have to explain what, because this is not just like a little elevator.
It-
This is a major grain.
Grain
storage
elevator,
facility.
yeah, farmers take their grain after they pulled it out of their fields, they store it in these giant bins.
So this is a central location for all the farmers.
Yeah,
And it's usually the only one
in the
in the
community,
community.
yeah. Although we have a lot of them in Northwest Ohio. But everybody trusted the owner. He donates so much money to kids. Well, it's easy to do when it's not your money. So I immediately called my news editor and I said, this is going to be the lead on the front page. So on Monday, it's pretty much what he worked on. We broke the story. We beat the dailies in the area. We beat the television stations in the area. This was on our front page coverage of this story for a year. He was the gift that kept on giving because there were constant developments.
Good thing you ran out of potato chips.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, we would have been last probably.
Right.
The inventory was 50,000 bushels short.
Yeah. Millions of dollars.
Mm.
The grain indemnity fund, which the state of Ohio sets up, every farmer pays a little portion of the money they get for for their grain into this grain indemnity fund. So if an elevator goes under, the farmers can get some of their money back for the grain they have stored in these giant
It's half a
bins.
penny per bushel.
Yeah,
It's very small for the.
very small, but it adds up fast because you're talking a lot of bushels
Right.
farmers bring in.
Wow.
And he had 11 charges filed against him, including grand theft, tampering with evidence, tampering with records, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, and violations of laws concerning accepting deposits and violating rules of delayed price agreements. He served 16 months in prison when they left him out, and he was ordered to pay more than $3.1 million in restitution. Now, it's never going to happen because he has to pay a whopping $30 a month to pay these farmers back.
Oh, yeah.
He'll never pay it before he's done, and he's got a job. He could pay more, but we reported this pretty much went on over a year constantly. This issue sold out. Several of the issues sold out because we devoted more space to it than anybody. We are so important in our community, and we can break things before the dailies do. So just because you're small doesn't mean
And
you
one of the-
can't break
one of
important news.
the snobby things that the big media say about community papers is, well, they don't do any investigative journalism, so it's not real journalism. If you look at every story that David did on that,
Yeah,
it was a major investigation. It was just spread out over time.
yeah.
And it did win a Hooper Award.
It won Hooper, and we placed second
I was the
nationally.
judge.
You're the judge of that?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
David.
This one
Pugh.
was so
At the
fast,
bottom.
David had to put it at this as a.
Yeah, sometimes it's at the top. Depends if he interviews people, it goes as a by David Pugh. If it's more collection of research, he puts it at the end. That's just what he does, and it's what he's always done. But yeah, it placed second nationally in in-depth reporting.
Wow.
So that was the first time we had actually done anything in the national newspaper competition. So yeah, it was very important to the community to report on this.
And what was in that slot before the story broke?
Nothing, because it happened on a Saturday. I knew it was
Oh,
going
okay,
there
okay,
Saturday when I talked to him on the phone.
Okay.
So, okay, yes.
So such an article, would the big media companies want to buy it, for instance, and then,
We never had anybody who wanted to buy it.
so they don't.
It doesn't work that way here. They just give
Okay.
it outright.
Yeah,
They-
they'll
they-
just,
they-
they'll
they
do
take
their
the
own
story,
story.
They'll put their own reporter on it and they'll rewrite it.
Right.
They won't even mention this, the
Yeah.
newspaper that broke the story.
No,
It's very cutthroat and
Yeah.
it's highly
Yeah.
unethical, but it happens all the time.
and we know, I mean, the Toledo TV station subscribed to our paper.
Mhm.
The Blade subscribes,
While they'll give a mention, but.
yeah,
Very rarely.
It's rare.
but I mean,
Only
the
if it's a
important thing,
cute little town nestled somewhere.
Yeah.
everybody locally knew we broke the story.
Mhm.
So, because we don't sell just in our community, we sell our newspapers on newsstands around the area. And yeah, it's sold out. So,
Can we get to the fun one?
yes, we can get to the fun one now.
Go ahead.
Okay,
I'm
so,
gonna- I'm gonna mute this so that. we
Yeah,
can
hang
make
on.
the big
Okay.
splash.
so, this comes under the thing of take advantage when an opportunity presents itself. Okay, probably most of the United States or the world had never heard of Pettisville, Ohio before the fall of 2021. It's a little teeny tiny unincorporated community, has no stoplights, has a few stop signs, has a school. And we had a trio of siblings, Caleb, Joshua, and Becca Lichty. They are known as Girl Named Tom. So the group in the community were thrown into the spotlight when
They're
they are,
musicians.
yeah, they're singers, musicians, they play just about every instrument they can play. And they were from Pettisville. They were slotted to appear on a national TV singing competition called The Voice. Working their way through the various stages of the competition, which depends on viewers voting, they advanced to the finale. So just the finale was held and the announcement was Tuesday night, December 14th, 2021. So just before 11 p.m., the winner was announced and everybody in Northwest Ohio was on the edge of their seats.
Right.
Okay.
Time in season 21. Here we go.
They're very photogenic.
Yeah.
She wants it really bad. Look at her faces, please, us, yes.
Everybody in Archbold and Pettisville are screaming at this point.
History is made on the voice. Sibling trio from Zanesville, Ohio. We did all.
Okay,
Enough
So,
to-
that
Back
was
to the newspaper.
that was right before 11 o'clock on Tuesday night. And we had to have pages sent by 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. Okay. We didn't know if they were going to win or not. But we had it arranged with our printer, who is a small newspaper. They're bigger than us, but they're small. 2 minutes after 11, I called the lead pressman and I pretty much yelled into the phone, print it, because we had the poster ready to go. We had sent it to them. And they would print it only if the kids won. Now, it turned out I didn't even have to call the pressman because everybody at that newspaper was also watching. They were just as invested as we were. So we actually had a bank that sponsored this poster, which has photos from the show. And you can get these from The Voice. They have a media place where you can go. You just have to give photo credits. But this had a collection of photos from the show along with a family photo. We put a family photo on both pages. And then if you want to go to the next one,
And there's the sponsor, Farmers
Yep.
and Merchants.
and then the back of the page had their camera ready ad. Okay, so we didn't have to do any
I
work.
don't think we have the page. I think you only said.
Yeah, the next one down. That goes back to November. This
one?
is the first poster that we did. that was back in November when they were starting the live playoffs. The bank sponsored this one first in November. We didn't know what to charge them, so we just came up with a price. Okay, this has, if you have been around a long time, and obviously you can tell I'm excited about this because this was so much fun. We had all these photos, except for the family photo, saved on our server. I mean, we all knew the kids, and I knew I had a ton of photos from them when they were in school. So I had just gone back and pulled off photos that we had printed in the paper, put them on a poster. No other newspaper was going to have these photos. It made it unique, and it showed how invested we are in the community because we had all of these photos saved. We just had to put them together in some order. So
And people hung them in their windows.
oh yeah, but yeah, I had an ad rep at that time, and she went to Farmers and Merchants Bank and asked if they wanted to sponsor it. They immediately said yes. They sent a camera ready ad for the back. So we had no work involved on the back. We had them printed on premium paper. And so this came out back in November when they started the live playoffs. And of course, Grandma Lichty came in and bought extra copies. I mean, we sold a lot of papers. The congratulations when they won. So I had to help deliver papers to newsstands that next morning. And I went to one of our convenience stores. People sit there and wait for the paper to get there, and they read it all together. So I went in to drop the papers off, and people come up. And we had a general article about the last episode, but we couldn't get the news in on the front page because it had to be done at 4 o'clock. We had people coming up buying the paper, and I went over to talk to them about it, and they said, did you guys know that they won before they won? They thought we knew. And we said, no, we have a great printer who agreed to print it only if they won. We had to have it in today's paper.
So newspapers are prepared. I mean, I worked for several different newspapers, several different companies. And one of the first thing I had to do my first week was write my own obituary. So it was on file.
There you go.
I was actually, as you were talking, reminded of the fact that
Just in case.
that's what we did. We waited for Mandela for years to die.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
Mandela died, it was, I think, after 11 when we got the call. We got to the office. We even had even T-shirts ready. And the story was out.
Yeah.
Lots. We've been banking Mandela's
But you know,
obituaries
this
for
is a
years.
big national thing that comes home, but you could do, we call this the full tilt boogie, is when you pull out all the stops. You can do this for something that's very localized, but it's
Yeah.
still the local people they've won a local championship, a team,
Yeah.
or somebody wins a national award locally or something like that. So you can pull out all the stops for that kind of little thing too. Simon.
You're online as well.
Yes.
How important was it for you to get a comment for them, just for the, to hear the excitement and everything, since you have a close relationship?
A comment, what? that
From
they-
them, from the
After they
trio,
won.
from the brothers.
We did a follow-up article the next week that had the fact that they won. We talked to the kids. We had the private cell phone number of the dad, who he gave us a number of comments. I mean, we interviewed him all the time during this whole run. So we had comments the next week. They were very limited on how much they could talk any one week. Each newspaper got a half an hour to talk to them on the phone. And that was it, because of all the things they had to do related to the show. But after they won, their dad had terminal cancer. And before the week or two before the finale, we heard the scanner call to his house about a broken leg. He had fallen in the shower, broke his leg. They took him to Toledo Hospital, transferred him up to Michigan. And we knew it was bad because he had a cancer that is very unusual. It was in his back, and breaking a leg was horrible. And they knew he didn't have a lot of time. So they went through this whole competition knowing that their dad was dying. And so as soon as they got done with the show, they had permission from the show. Instead of hanging around doing all the press that they normally do, they did a couple of outlets they hopped on a plane and got up to Detroit to go to the hospital to see their dad, which is where they were the next 6 weeks until he died. So they gave us a little time, what they could. And of course, I mean, at that point, Chris couldn't really talk with us much. Before he broke his leg, he did an article with us, and it was the week before the finale when he broke his leg. And this is going to make me cry, but the kids always called and talked to him after the episodes. And Becca especially would call and talk to her dad. And Chris's best quote in the whole series, and we ended that article with it before he broke his leg, was, "Sometimes a girl just needs to talk to her daddy." And that's the best quote ever. So it was so important that they got to the hospital as soon as they could and were with their dad when he died. And they had transferred him to hospice. So there was so much extra emotion around all of this that, I mean, all of Northwest Ohio was invested in it. I think all of Ohio was invested in it. And some of the contestants that have been on The Voice since then, they just had a trio
From Mansfield.
somewhere else in Ohio that talked about how Girl Named Tom inspired them. So, like I said, this doesn't happen very often, but we took advantage of it when we could. So, and I mean, the kids thanked us afterwards for all of our coverage. And another neat thing was, they do a B-roll where they get background information on the kids, and they went and shot scenes from Pettisville and stuff. And one of the things they did was mom and dad, Holly and Chris, held up newspapers in a couple of scenes from this video package that promoted the kids. And we were in 2 of the scenes. And so we got national exposure, which was really cool. And it was fun at the time. So, like I said, something you can only take advantage of every once in a while. The marketing manager for the bank that sponsored these 2 pages said it was the best money she had ever spent.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I take that every
We
time.
have 10 minutes left, so
Oh, sorry.
let's get to questions.
Sorry.
Simon has a follow-up. Hold on, please.
Yeah.
Simon has a follow-up.
How easy is it to do a homecoming event, given that relationship? Congratulatory, things, and have everybody was rallied behind their journey.
It depends on who's winning. These kids are so well loved and so well respected, and the whole family is, because he owned a business in Archbold. He advertised with us, so which is why we had his personal cell phone. If you have some kids who are more jerks, you aren't going to get the support that you would with 3 kids like these kids.
Would you consider that?
Depends on the kids. Probably, as long as we knew we could get some sponsors, we would do it.
Like the bank? They've been
The
there.
bank would probably base
Be all over
their
it.
what happened on what happened here, and they would probably say yes. But to get kids on national TV is so unusual.
Yeah, no.
So all you can do is try. That's what we figured on that first one. We figured all we can do is try. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, okay. But we tried. And it worked.
So
Yes.
Neely has a question.
I'm just curious. So what was the deal with the bank
Okay.
if it went the other way?
If
If they
lost.
didn't
Oh.
win?
Okay, so the first one was going no matter what, because it was at the beginning of the process. If it didn't go, I wasted my time putting the page together. We didn't print anything at that point. They printed this poster at the last minute. So if they didn't win, the poster would not have run. No one would have known we did anything for it.
What would have ran in its place?
Nothing, because this was just an
It's
extra
just an
page.
insert.
This was
Okay.
an insert like our grocery inserts.
Oh, so
So you didn't have a.
We were taking the
Love you
chance.
Anyway,
Nope,
you made us proud.
nope.
We love you anyway.
So the
Nope.
bank was only gonna pay if,
If we
If
won
they won.
for that
Ah,
second
okay.
one.
all right.
I
Yeah.
would have had a plan B.
Yeah.
The thing is, I only had so much time.
Congratulations, it was a great run.
Yeah, you made
Yeah.
us proud.
Yeah.
You're still #1 in our hearts.
We just, honestly, we were 90% sure they were gonna win.
Wow.
So just because of the reaction,
They were getting.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all thought they were gonna win. We would have been shocked if they hadn't won, let's put it that way. But yeah, we had no backup plan. It was either gonna run in its form or it wasn't gonna run at all.
Brave.
Yeah.
That is brave.
Why jinx it?
So, huh?
Why jinx it?
Yeah, I didn't want to run a runner-up thing. I wanted to
Exactly.
run the champion.
Yeah.
But so between the 2 pages, like I said, we didn't know what to charge. So the first page we sold for $9.99. The second one, we upped the price to $12.75. So they paid, about $2,100 for the 2 posters. And then afterwards, when the kids came, they did a little mini concert in this new little theater at our historical village. We had them sign 2 of the posters. One is at the Buckeye, framed. The other one we gave to farmers and merchants
Nice.
so that they could have it framed in whatever frame they wanted, and they have it hanging in a bank. So, and
Jimmy
it-
Sonny has a question.
yeah,
No, good afternoon. Thanks very much. For a good presentation. I want to know what's your working relationship with the national media? Are they trying to bully you or to push you? Out of the business. We know. South Africa. They want dominance. They want to control. In every corner of the country. Are you expressing the same thing here? In USA.
national media, I have no
I think he means
relationship. Oh, corporate, like,
Corporate, Gannett, Adams.
Your competition, AIM, the AIM papers.
I mean, in terms of AIM,
Just a
AIM versus
little-
national, APG, we all get along up in
Yeah.
Northwest Ohio. I mean, they used to be family-owned papers. We've had our relationship
Guys
with them
kind of
for
all
so
stay in your
long.
lane.
It's, yeah,
Well,
we've had no issues.
is that at one point in time, the dailies, the corporates, they had offices, in this county, in that county, in that town. They don't have that anymore. They may have their, their main, office in Cleveland, or
Plain
Columbus.
dealer used to have bureaus
Yeah,
all
bureaus.
throughout Northeast. I mean, they have bureaus 50, 60 miles away from city center.
And so you would
But
go to
they've
a
all
meeting and
retracted.
there'd be a reporter there that would have a relation, had a long relationship with, some official or whatever. And there it was hard, there was a lot more competition. Now they're gone. They'll come in, for that, the gruesome story, or they'll come in, I'm sure probably Toledo had something about the girl named Tom or
Oh, yeah.
something, they'll come in for that sort of thing. But that's where I was talking earlier about just sticking to what you do.
Yeah.
So we stay away from them. We don't, we know that if something big like that happens, like Mary, with that thing, we know we're gonna get it first because we're there, we've stayed. So we know the officials, we know the people.
They trusted us.
Yes, and I'll tell you, one of the things that was it's a tragedy, but that we had a school shooting in our community, 10 years ago. And, at that time you had we had London, the everybody was there. London Times was there because it was one of those big things that was happening.
The circus came to town.
The circus
Yeah.
came to town. But a lot of the officials, a lot of people knew that we were the ones in town. And so, this is one of the greatest satisfactions that you have, I guess, is a small, like Mary with getting that story. We were breaking news that the New York Times people didn't have because I knew the sheriff, I knew the prosecutor,
Yep.
I knew the judges.
It's like we talked about yesterday with the Sago mine disaster. All the media descended on this. It's not even a town in the middle of West Virginia. Picked up this horrible mining disaster. All the major media, everybody got it wrong because the report from the governor was wrong. The only newspaper that corrected it immediately was the local paper. And the only paper that stuck around, of course, was the local paper,
Yes.
because they said, we
Yeah.
have to live here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they covered every other aspect, the investigation, the funerals, the anniversaries,
Right.
all of that. They covered all of it. Whereas the big media, they parachuted in,
Yep.
And they leave.
to them, they got the story. They viewed the story as a commodity that they had to get to use. Whereas for the local paper, and you guys know this from your coverage, these are your people.
Yep.
You're there not just to cover the event, but the healing, the recovery, the mourning, all of that. You suffer and you get past it and you recover with your community.
And give them more of the story.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, the big ones will come in, they'll do like the USA Today little version, you know, of 500 words or whatever it is. Well, you can really get into it because you know the people, but sort of the advice that I would have on that is, you know, figure out what your niche is and what a competitive advantage you have over the big paper or whatever, and exploit that. It may be knowing the people or the officials or the business people in your community better, you know, and then exploit that.
We had Pettisville back in the mid-90s had a tornado hit it. And at the time, we had a features reporter who lived north of Pettisville. And after the tornado hit, she immediately goes to the part of the town that houses were flattened, the business was flattened. People came up to her and started telling her stories of them being in the tornado and what happened with their house. And that formed the basis of our coverage the next Wednesday. And then, of course, we had all the photos to go with it. When we had a barn that exploded several years ago, north of Pettisville, I wanted to have more than just the normal stuff. So David didn't have time. So I went and talked to the owner. They invited me into their house. They told me a story that ended up getting first place in the Hoopers, did something nationally, but they went through step by step from just getting up in the morning to the boom and what happened afterwards, because they trusted me.
There's a great documentary about something similar that happened in Joplin, Missouri. They got hit by
Yeah.
a terrible, terrible tornado, just destroyed this town. It's just a town of some size, but it's called Deadline and Disaster. It's an amazing documentary about how the newspaper that was hit, and they lost some of their people were killed in the tornado, but they continued to publish, and they published about the recovery. And it's I mean, as community journalists, it will move you to see that story, because you see just how, yeah, we're suffering too, but we also have a certain duty to the community.
Yeah.
I mean, journalists are first responders, just like police and fire and medics.
Which the police sometimes forget.
Yes, well, always.
Yes. Well, not always. Ours are pretty good. No.
So mine is just one of these very basic ones. Please send us that link, because I think it would be great.
The Deadline Disaster?
Yeah, Deadline
It's not a
Disaster.
link, it's a documentary,
Yeah,
so
so how would we get, well, basically, how do we get?
Hold of it.
I haven't.
All right.
I don't know if it streams. I don't-
Okay, all right.
I'll
We'll have a
send you
look.
information.
We'll have a look.
One last question.
Also want to say something. One last for the session. Yeah, go for it.
That's a good question. Okay, my last question to John, and it's just a question of interest. Printing is the biggest expense of the media room. I want to know, how is it for you? Because with us, we print with our competitors. We don't own print presses,
Right.
Yeah.
which means we have no control over the pricing. We have no control over our slots, when we want to print and all that. So I want to know, because I heard you say that you outsource one part of the printing and you're printing the other part of the printing, like your mags. So how is it in your case? The expenses of the printing, is it also as expensive as our printing? Or yeah,
It's cheaper for us to print the special sections, you know, that we print. We also happen to be a commercial printer. So we're printing, other types of publications. So that part's cheaper. The big thing that, we work with our printer. We sit down every year, we go over what the cost is gonna be, and we ask them to quote, 4, 12, 8, 10, 12, 16, 20 pages. So that's where we know exactly, what it is. What is it gonna cost for the insert? glossy paper, when we do that, what's it gonna cost? What's, so we know very much what our costs are going to be. We work, the printer, kind of like with Mary's, works with us. If we need to send something late, they work with us, so we send it late. There's times like in here, the US elections are on a Tuesday. Okay, well, the Maple Leaf goes to press Tuesday. So it's mailed on Wednesday. Well, we'll talk to them and say, hey, can you hold it until, midnight? And print it first thing in the morning or whatever to ship, because we want to get the election results in. We work, on that. But on all those things, even some of the special sections, we don't print every one of them in-house. I am very much of an operator. I know what my costs are to the penny. So I know for a certain thing, how many we're printing, whatever it is, where I'm going to get the lower cost, and where my margin will be best. And I work that way, because the printer, just like any other business, they want to increase their business too. So and they're very, very competitive. There's fewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot fewer.
Printers, out there, but they're still, I think very, reasonable. I mean, with the supply and demand, it could probably go up and we wouldn't have a lot to do, because we can only, as papers, raise your rates so much for advertisers.
And how much would you say is your percentage on average spend of your business on print? Because I can tell you my biggest chunk of my expense goes to print. You're talking 60-70% of my income goes to print.
Right.
So in your case, how much would it be?
Boy, I'll tell you, I'd be happy. I can get I have no problem. I can send you the numbers. Between printing and mailing, we probably, I'd be throwing out a guess. Maybe it's 40-50%.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. But between distribution and printing,
Yeah, and our paper is distributed through the mail. Okay, then we distribute it at stores. We have single, copies. We have a huge problem with the post office, at least in this country. I mean, I think it's in terms of getting timely delivery, but it's, but no, I'm very much, on top of the costs and where it is, because the one thing is I talked about, like the printing and the mailing, even with the paid subscription paper, I know where my revenue is every single week. Okay, so I may make a decision, hey, we're going from 32 to 28 pages. So instead of including 4 photos for every school, put 1. And then again, and this is to drive traffic, we'll put we have a clip art of a pencil, on the school pages that will say, for more school news photos, go to our website, but I am very much looking at those costs, and that's, it is a business. You have to look at it as a business, and what your operational costs are, and the things that you can control do that.
Our printing costs went from higher to lower, back to higher, every time we had to change our printer. Our first printer shut down its press. They were 20 minutes away from us. Okay, we're only 1,700 papers. So a lot of printers won't print us. A lot of papers won't print us. Findlay won't print us. With Fort Wayne won't print us. We're too small. So we had to find a printer that would print us. So we switched to the Adrian Telegram in Michigan, which was an hour away. Then they were bought out by Gannett, and Gannett shut down all the presses. So now we are printing in Tecumseh, which is another 15 minutes away. But we have the situation where, so we have 1,700 papers, we have inserts, and we have labels. We print our own labels, and the inserts come to the Buckeye. If we have more than 2 inserts, we have to pre-stuff another insert into one of those others, because they don't have the space because they're so small. So we also have another newspaper in Archbold called the Farmland News, which is a little niche paper for the farming community. So we worked it out between the two of us. They print on Tuesday, we print on Wednesday. And Tecumseh delivers our papers to us. So Tecumseh will go to Farmland News on Tuesday, deliver their papers, and go to the post office, deliver the papers, stop at the Buckeye, pick up our inserts and our labels for the next day's paper. Then they come back, they deliver another newspaper called the Liberty Press, come over to Archbold, deliver our papers to us on Wednesday, take our papers to the post office, head back to Michigan. So we pay a higher price because it's a smaller printer. They only charge us $50 to deliver the paper, which is really cheap when you're talking an hour down and an hour back, but they're getting other papers and they're charging each of us. So it adds up.
And, to Dooney's point, while, the newspapers themselves get along, the corporate owners, their manipulation of the printing presses and their shutdown printing presses has caused a huge crisis for community newspapers across America. Many of them are they're like, where do we get printed now? That, they've centralized another printing plant, and they've eliminated us.
Try hiring an experienced press person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's
They
gonna
don't
be our
exist.
biggest problem in a couple of years is.
I mean, Anita,
if
you were at
Tecumseh drops.
Salina, they've got capacity on their presses, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's our problem. If Tecumseh shuts down. We have one newspaper in Michigan who contacted us. They would charge us $300 a week for delivery.
Have you ever checked with Delphos Eagle Printing, or
Yes,
too far?
that was not gonna work.
That wasn't
Yeah,
gonna
and
work.
that's who
No.
Deb Tobin went with, and that's who Yellow Springs ended up going with, because AIM shut down. They gave them a week's notice.
I know.
Yeah, at least we had 3 weeks notice from
Okay,
Adrian.
I'm gonna drop because we're in the car with you, Bill. I'll bring up some cards. Please feel free to email me. Send me your information. I'll give you all free online subscription to the newspaper so you can see everything. But I mean, feel free to contact me, because again, I'm not a journalist by trade. I was a lawyer, and then I owned a business that I sold. And so I'm very much on the economics of the paper. So feel free to email me anything.
I want to say thank you.
And we've got copies.
We are out of
Could
time.
take.
Yeah.
Chris wants to say
Quick
thank
one.
you. So Chris,
Yes.
this has to be a very short one.
100%. Thank you so much. We are really inspired. And I think in American, one thing that I've actually noticed that things work, and you guys have a sense of community. And that's something that we as media people can take back into our communities, because we are actually have the responsibility to be the glue and make communities work.
Right.
And what you guys have displayed today is really eye-opening, because in our communities, we don't only have language or class, we also have challenges with gated communities, and also a sense of not wanting to see what the neighbor is doing. So I think we can take out of what you have shared that we need to be our goal needs to be in getting communities back to communities again, and making sure that those traffic fines and those things that we think are totally ridiculous to us and unheard of. Maybe one day there's an opportunity that can come out of that. So thank you so much for opening up our eyes and inspiring us. Thank you.
John, Mary, Monica, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will reward you with Jackie.
Oh.
No, seriously.
Yes.
Okay.
Papers up here, if that's okay.
I'm
You
gonna
can
get-
go by and take what you want.
We need to have like 5 minutes of housekeeping to take up, and then